Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto becomes daimyo naruhina harem. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by QB Phoenix 1600 and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. He stood on top of the mountain face, looking down at the village. It had recovered well in the 3 years after the attack. But the scars were still there. He mournfully recalled that dreadful night. Flashback start. It's here! QB is here! Get all civilians to the shell kaboom! Flashback end. He shook his head. So many dead, so many lives ruined. Many brave shinobi died to stop QB. In the end, it had to be sealed. Even now, he could see the baby, only 3 years old. The hatred for the boy could be felt by a dead man in the deepest pits of hell, yet none could speak of it. He sighed. At least the third made the law to prevent the hatred from being spread to the younger generations. In hindsight, this was a move with mixed results. The hatred will still infect the younger folk. He grunted in frustration. Now he will need to help the boy, but helping him meant that the boy would follow the same training that he took. That means finding someone to bring him back. Geez, demons were unpredictable. In his mind, 2 shapes appeared of equal size. One was blue, the other green. The green one spoke in the deep voice of a bass. What troubles you so, warrior? The man replied, many things trouble me. I have much responsibility. Many burdens to shoulder. The blue whispered in a gentle motherly tone, is it the boy? No. The boy will be fine. It's the thing to hold him back that worries me. Both shapes shifted. The green asked, what do you mean? The training involving QB. The green flinched when it realized the problem. Yes, said the green, that is a problem. Suddenly, the blue froze, causing both the man and the green to jump. What is it? Another vision? The green asked. Why, yes. The blue stammered. And? Demanded the green. I was given the answer to your problem. The blue spoke, but what do you mean the thing to hold him back? If he is to succeed in the training, someone must be chosen to be the one to prevent him from releasing the seal that Yondain used. The man explained, when the training is undertaken, the person is often opposite of the trainee. Opposite in what? The blue inquired. Almost everything, rumbled the green, personality, abilities, gender, etc. Now, what was your vision? What did you see? I saw a patch of sunlight and a fox. The fox was loud, proud, strong, and had a large appetite for ramen. I assume this is the boy, correct? The blue described. The man nodded. The patch of sunlight was quiet, shy, and doubtful, but had a strong liking for the fox. Well, said the man, that is interesting, but before we continue, could you please take a shape? I can't see where your eyes are and I would hate to be looking at something else. Both shapes began to take form. Both were serpentine with legs, 2 mighty wings spread from their backs, a whip-like tail appearing behind the hind legs. The green formed a muscular chest and neck before connecting to a hydra-like head with spikes covering the head/neck connection. The blue was thin, but had the grace of a flying bird with the power to remove a mountain from its roots. The head was spiked but less prominently than the green, with softer ridges than the green's. The green was male, the blue female. Their names were Terra Firma and Kronos. Kronos stretched and curled up cat-like, blinking her sapphire eyes at the man. Slowly better? She asked. Much. A chair appeared behind the man, and he sat down facing the 2 majestic beasts. Please continue. The fox part 1 understand, but the sunlight is confusing. Well then, the sunlight shifted and took on a feminine form, with long black hair with blue hues, and the eyes. The eyes? Questioned Terra Firma. Her eyes were as captivating as well, I'm not sure. Kronos sighed. They drew my eyes slowly and they were naturally captivating. Anything else? The man asked. She also had a kekei genkai, finished Kronos. Well, that narrows down the field, muttered the man. Hey, what are you doing? The man jolted out of his mind state to see half a dozen Jonin standing in a circle around him. He glanced quickly at the faces of the Jonin. Shit, ANBU Black Ops, thought the man. He shrugged. Nothing from what I can tell. Is there a problem? You have no headband. Who are you and what is your name? I am a man with absolutely no reason to answer you but will, and my name is not important. That's it. Arrest him, yelled the shortest ANBU. Now I have no intention of getting arrested, replied the man. He released a small amount of killing intent as he stood up. The men backed off a few feet. Whoever or whatever this man was, he was strong and not to be taken lightly. And now I say to you adieu. The man bowed in a flourish and suddenly vanished. The ANBU stood in shock 30 seconds as realization sunk in. None of them had seen the man perform hand seals, and his eyes did not change at all. Who or what was that man? High above the squad, the man laughed quietly. None of them knew that he had jumped to his airship waiting high above. Soon, Naruto, soon your training will be passed on to me, he murmured as he revved the engines to full power and shot towards the mountains. In the meantime, I look forward to your growth till then. 9 years later, the man sat at the edge of the roof, watching the first rounds of the third test of the Chunin exam. As he watched, terra firma and Chronos appeared in his mind, watching through his eyes. The boy Naruto, when is his match? I grow weary of watching these pathetic weaklings, growled terra firma. Patience, terra firma, patience, soothed the man, his match is starting right now. The dragons grew quiet, mainly to hear what was happening. As they watched, Naruto fell under the devastating barrage of Niji's 8 trigrams 64 palms. Well, he is done fighting for now. Let's go, spoke terra firma, and he vanished. What is he doing? Asked Chronos. He is getting back up, replied the man, and as he spoke, Niji asked Naruto a question. It is pointless to get back up. Why keep fighting? Answer me, Naruto. The man grew silent. Chronos even paused to hear Naruto's answer. Because someone called me a failure, replied Naruto between breaths. Raagh. The man chuckled as Chronos jumped and started to clean her claws to calm herself. Well, I never thought I would see the day when the very creature whose speed is said to rival the power of time was scared of the kid that had QB in his belly button. Shut up or I'll fully appear and lick you, she growled menacingly. A dragon's tongue was barbed and could skin a full-grown deer in one swipe. They continued to watch as the clash drew to a close. Well, that was entertaining. The fight or my scare? The fight. Naruto has a power that his father had. He stopped and stared into the crowd. What? What? Chronos appeared on his shoulder and failed to follow his line of sight. Watch I see? Girl flash ya? The man laughed and playfully punched her, not hard enough to harm her but just enough to knock her off balance. Girl yes. Flashing no. I found our keeper for Naruto. Really? Where? Currently knocked out and healing from the preliminaries. Now I suggest that we get as far from the arena as possible. Why? Afraid of Jonin now? No, just no desire to watch the battle for the village. Chronos got the hint and grew so that he could sit on her for the flight. His previous method of flight was currently sitting at the bottom of the ocean. He ticked off the leader of a large army. They had blimps and really good aim. Flying away, they passed 2 shinobi, who were on their way to the arena for the exams. Neither saw the dragon and her rider, for they flew up above the clouds and hid their chakra. They would not return for some time. Many things would change in that time. Oh, that hit the spot! Exclaimed the man. Chronos sighed. They were sitting at a vendor at the side of the road, half a day's walk from Konoha. Have you decided what your alias will be? Nope, he replied. He thought for a bit, and said, what about B? It suits you. Yeah, but with you next to me, I'm a rock. You're a SMMMHMPH. Chronos shoved the last dango down his open mouth and smiled. She was a dragon but disguised herself as a human woman. She wore her ocean blue hair long, had sapphire eyes, and wore leather pants that clung to her legs and a leather jacket with a t-shirt that had the symbol for speed on it. Her nails were long and sharp. She did not like to change into a human, but certain liberties were allowed. Nails hurt when they were forced into flesh. B was wearing a pale yellow jumpsuit with black stripes down the arms. He was muscular and seemed slow, but wore weights on his entire body. He held the record for the fastest marathon where they came from. The second-place person was 4 solid minutes behind him. He had 2 pistols nestled inside of shoulder holsters, hidden underneath his vest. The vest looked similar to a Chunin vest but pitch black. I miss Terra, murmured Chronos. Why? He went with those fools willingly, and B paused as he felt a vibration in the earth. What's up? Crap. I really hoped that I had lost them in Suna. Huh? Chronos was confused. Fangirls, he mused, put a desert between you and them and they'll cross it. I'll meet you at the village gate and if not there, the Hokage's office. What are you going to do? B smiled an evil smile. Play cat and mouse. In Konoha, Naruto was waking up from a good dream of ramen and being Hokage. He looked at the cat clock on the wall. 8 o'clock. He groaned. He had to see Granny Tsunade at 10. Naruto rose from bed and crossed to the bathroom. After relieving himself, he went to the fridge for milk. Pouring himself a bowl of cereal, he sat back thinking of past events. The Chunin exams, the clash with Gaara, the search for Tsunade, and the retrieval of Sasuke. A lot had happened during his time as a genin. Draining the last dregs of the milk, he watered the plants that he had been growing. They were growing magnificently under his watchful eye. He smiled. The plants were good listeners for when he needed to talk about his day, but they couldn't give any feedback to him. Glancing at the clock, he changed into his bright orange and blue jumpsuit and started to walk towards the Hokage's tower. He got pointed glances from everywhere. For a long time, he had no idea why he was treated so badly. When he found out about Kyubi being sealed inside his navel, he understood and was confused at the same time. He believed in the lesson of don't judge a book by its cover, and many of Konoha's residents judged him by his cover. He smiled. Everyone except for old man Ichiraku and his daughter. As Naruto turned towards the entryway of the tower, a large and heavy object crashed into him and knocked them both into the dust. "Ow!" Naruto moaned. "Hey, you okay?" Naruto looked up to see B standing over him, offering his hand to help him up. Naruto grinned and accepted the hand. "Thanks. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Age 12, enjoys ramen to a fault, lives alone and just returned from a titanic battle that ruined a monument." B reeled off. "Huh!" Naruto looked at B with surprise etched on his face. "Sorry. I have a special ability that allows me to know the most recent and important things about new people I meet. I don't have full control of it yet." "Name's B. Where's your headband?" Naruto asked, noticing the lack of the mark of the shinobi. "The people who raised me do not believe in having to declare our alliance to ourselves. It raises a lot of suspicion when we go to villages." B explained. "Ah. Who are the people that raised you?" The B looked to the right in alarm. "Nanny? What is it?" Naruto asked. "Crud. The fangirls I was running from found my trail." "Nanny? I have a very large reputation and unfortunately, that includes fans, or in my case, fangirls that are trying to get you to marry them, go out with them, etc." "Oh," Naruto breathed. B was like Sasuke, just with no ego. "And here they come," grumbled B. All of a sudden, a large group of girls rounded the corner and thundered towards the duo. Just then, Hinata walked onto the road between the mob and the boys. The two boys froze. B yelled, "You grab the girl. I'll distract the mob. I'll meet you in the tower." "Got it!" Naruto shouted back. The two sprinted off to intercept the potential collision. "She's still recovering from the Chunin exams, right?" B hollered to Naruto. "Granny Tsunade healed her, but she stays at the hospital," Naruto said. Interesting, thought B. This requires some asking around. Hinata was walking to the tower when she spotted Naruto, and B running towards her at full speed. She blushed and started to speak when she heard running behind her. She turned around to see a large group of girls that sped up when they saw B running. She was 3 feet from being trampled when Naruto grabbed her, threw her onto his back, and sprinted away with B close behind them. "And Naruto-kun?" stammered Hinata as they raced to stay ahead of the mob. "Sorry, Hinata. But we needed to get you out of the way of the stampede," called Naruto. "And Naruto is carrying me," thought Hinata. She blushed fiercely and promptly passed out. B noticed this exchange while they sprinted toward the Hokage's tower. "Well, she likes him and he doesn't know." He grinned. This was going to be interesting. "Naruto! Run into the tower on my mark, Nanny! Just do it now!" roared B. Naruto pumped his legs even harder, making it to the tower just as the mob passed the door. He could hear B screaming, "Oh shit, Databoyo," as he ran with the girls close to his tail. He chuckled. "What's so funny?" came a voice behind him. Naruto jumped and looked back. "How did you get back so fast?" "Shadow clone," B stated simply. "Now let's get inside before they show up again." Hinata slowly became conscious. Eyes still blurry, she saw a large patch of blue and soft talking and laughing. A face appeared above her and asked, "Are you okay?" Hinata nodded and sat up. She was laying on the couch inside the 5th Hokage's tower. Naruto was trying to get into the main office of Tsunade-sama. A young woman with the most beautiful blue was standing over her with Shizen sitting by the table looking concerned. "I'm fine," said Hinata so quietly that Shizen had to ask what she said. "That's good, Naruto," yelled the lady. "Settle down or I'll curse you so that ramen will run from you whenever you reach for it." Naruto looked at her with surprise and loathing. No ramen meant that he would actually have to go shopping. He scowled at her and sat at the table, throwing periodic glances at the door. "Ano, what is your name?" Hinata inquired to the blue-haired girl. Her hair looked like light literally slid off of it. She was stunning. "Kronos," replied the lady, offering her hand. Hinata took it and shook it. "Hinata." "Pleasure," Kronos said and looked in Naruto's direction and growled, "Naruto, stay put." Naruto was about to head back to try and open the Hokage's door. Hinata noticed that Chronos' eyes went from round to narrow like a cat's eyes and stayed that way until a very nervous Naruto sat back down. "Ano, Chronos-san?" "Yes, Hinata?" answered a normal-eyed Chronos. "Who are you?" "Good question. However, I cannot tell you just yet." "Why?" "Because of our mission." Naruto perked up. "What mission?" "A mission we need Tsunade-sama's permission for." Tsunade was sitting at her desk with B when Hinata woke up. "Let me get this straight," spoke Tsunade after thinking about what B just said. "You know of a place where Jinchuriki such as Naruto can be safe from Akatsuki, and no fear of attack?" "Correct," confirmed B. Tsunade leaned back in her chair and looked at B suspiciously. "What's the catch?" "There's actually 2 catches. You'll know them if you allow Naruto and the girl we brought in to train under us." Tsunade looked at B with the greatest look of loathing that she could muster. "Bastard." B smiled innocently. "Nope, just sensible. And make it quick, Naruto's trying to get in again." He had put up a seal on the entrance of the office and told Tsunade that he would release it after their talk. Tsunade mulled the idea over and replied okay. "And the catches?" B smiled and said, "First, Chronos and I need to know their capabilities, personalities, etc. We figured a training battle between Chronos and I and Hinata with Naruto." "Okay. 1 catch involves Kyuubi." Tsunade stiffened and grew serious. "We understand that the fox must stay sealed. However, with this training, Naruto will be able to master a form that has only been learned by 1 person and they are still figuring out the kinks. There is a risk and that's where Hinata comes in." "What is the risk?" "The training involves turning Kyuubi's chakra into a physical form and a weapon. But the risk is that if used too long, the demon will take over." Tsunade choked on her sake. B continued after she finished coughing. "In order to prevent this from happening, someone must be chosen as the key to return the user to normal." "And Hinata is the person you chose as the key?" asked Tsunade. "Yep." "Who is the person that also learned this style?" inquired Tsunade. "They are sitting in front of you." Tsunade spat the sake in her mouth at B and stared in utter shock at him. "You!" B calmly wiped sake from his eyes. "Yep. The second catch." "I thought that was the second catch?" "No, the second catch is that they must become dragon tamers." "What?" exclaimed Tsunade. "Dragons exist?" "Certainly. Chronos is a dragon. She's just transformed," explained B. Tsunade glared at him. "How come you did not go into the smuggling business? You would be very good. Morals. Now let's let our trainees in." Naruto was about to go to the door again, risking Chronos' anger, when B and Tsunade walked in. Tsunade looked mildly pissed, and when her eyes passed over Chronos, fear clawed its way into her eyes. "All right, Naruto, Hinata." Both genin stood up when Tsunade spoke. "You have a training mission." "All right." "Wait, what?" shouted a confused Naruto. "You both will be taken under the wings of B and Chronos for special training." "No," pouted Naruto, "send someone else. Sadly, they chose you both." Tsunade said. "Ano, how long will we be away?" spoke Hinata. "Depending on how long certain parts of the training takes, 2 to 3 years," answered Chronos. Hinata's mind went into overdrive. 3 years alone with Naruto and 2 unknown instructors. That meant he would speak to her. That meant that she would talk to him. She listened in a daze, trying not to faint as red creeped into her face. In order to determine a certain aspect of the training, W need to speak to Hinata. B continued. "Nanny? What about me?" B looked at Tsunade guiltily before saying, "We already know about you, Naruto. We've been watching you since it happened." Naruto looked at B and Chronos as if they just sprouted 2 heads. The incident that B was referring to was the attack of Kyuubi, and the sealing of it in his navel. Hinata was looking back and forth between the strangers and the hyper-blonde, completely confused. "Really?" asked Naruto. Chronos nodded. From the instant it occurred and a little before, Naruto couldn't decide if he should be pissed or happy. "So, we need to speak with Hinata and after that test you," Chronos piped up, hoping to clear the air of unease that had settled into the room. Hinata visibly flinched. She had failed miserably at the Chunin exams when fighting Niji. Her father made sure she would never forget. "Like she could," she said. "What kind of test?" Chronos smiled gently. "A sparring match to see what exactly you are capable of. You will also have a test to check your pursuit skills." "Why?" "Beside. We will explain more after the match. But first," he clapped his hands. "I need to eat. Running from those girls twice and running here has given me an appetite." "You ate that poor dango stand out of house and home," protested Chronos as they walked out of the tower with Naruto and Hinata in tow. "Can we go to Ichiraku's?" asked Naruto. B looked at Hinata and Chronos and replied, "Sure." "All right, Ichiraku's, here we come." Naruto said happily as the group headed to his favorite ramen shop. Kronos, Naruto, and Hinata were sitting at Ichiraku's when the sensei duo began to ask Hinata about herself. How old are you, Hinata? Asked Kronos. 13, the young Hyuga answered. Your parents? Asked B, who was racing Naruto at downing bowl after bowl of ramen. They were halfway through their third bowl. My father is 33 years old. My mother is dead. She died just after Hanabi's birth. Both senseis winced in unison and said, still in unison, I'm sorry. Then B ordered a fourth bowl. It's fine. You don't need to apologize. Hinata protested. That's not why, never mind, said B, and how does he treat you? Immediately after B asked the question, Kronos felt Hinata close up. Call it women's intuition, yes, dragons have that. But she felt that this question needed a woman's touch. Yes, dragons have that too. Take that, stereotypes. Tongue sticking out. She gave B a glare that with normal men, that didn't hang around dragons, would have put them into shock, including twitching and the whole 9 yards. Leaving B to choke on a piece of chicken, Kronos stretched her mind out to feel Hinata's timid mind. She asked gently, that bad, huh? Hinata flinched and stared at Kronos. She smiled kindly. It's alright, no one can hear this. Except B. But I'm blocking the baka. Hinata continued to stare and said, huh? Just think your words and I'll hear and respond. This is between you and me, and if you want B. Naruto never has to know, Kronos comforted. Oh, alright. When Hinata felt Kronos' mind, she felt an ancient mind with a childlike curiosity. She hadn't seen that combination in all of her life. He treats me fine, but he is disappointed in me. Why? Asked Kronos gently. Because I am a failure. I can't do the juken properly. I lost to my cousin Niji and nearly died. Tears began to form around Hinata's eyes. He wants me to become better. TTTOBBBBSTST strong air. As she finished saying this, Hinata broke into tears and began to sob silently. Kronos gazed at the young girl. Damn, this girl needs a pick-me-up like I need to. Wait a second, the dragon thought. She mentioned her idea to B, and after retelling him what the now crying Hyuga heir said, he looked at her and agreed. Naruto was sent off to prepare for the match in 5 hours. Hinata? Kronos gently placed her hand on the girl's shoulder. Hinata looked up into the light sapphire eyes. Would you follow me, please? Hinata nodded, wiped her tears and got up to follow her. B paid for the ramen and followed at a short distance. Kronos sent a mental ray to B. The instant I see that man, I'm going to tear him limb from limb for causing this helpless girl to be such a wreck. You'll do no such thing. As much as I would like to do the same to the self-absorbed son of a bitch, I get the feeling that there is more to that than meets the eye. You can, however, scare him when we see him later tonight. I'll meet you at Training Ground 9 in a few hours. B gave his leave and disappeared in the crowd. Hinata tried to spot him when Kronos pointed out he can vanish with extreme ease. The world he grew up in required it. Hinata looked strangely at Kronos. You'll have to ask him. Kronos replied simply to the puzzled look. Neither woman said anything more until Kronos had led them to the top of the Hokage monument. Ano, Kronos-sensei? Hinata asked. Yes? Why are we up here? Kronos stated. B, and I saw that you needed a pick-me-up. This privilege was granted once, to only one man. Hinata was curious. Who? B. Kronos answered. He was given a terrible burden and suffered an even worse loss when he was just barely 2 days old. Hinata gaped as the dragon went on, staring into the early afternoon sun. My brother, terra firma, and I were sealed inside of him. In our blind rage, not to mention one of the few times him and I agreed on something, we took over his body and killed the sealers in revenge. Hinata gasped. In the aftermath, we discovered that the sealers were in fact his own parents. Ever since, we have been plagued by the fact that we stained a newborn baby's hands with blood. Kronos paused before continuing. Eventually, he released us. However, the seal required a replacement. Due to the connection and touching of all 3 of our souls, a new tailed demon was formed. Terra firma and I, as well as the rest of the dragon race, owe him a debt that will last several lifetimes. All because of something he had no control over? Hinata said incredulously. Yes, Kronos replied. Now, for you to get this privilege, I need to change. Huh, Kronos smiled. You'll see. She crouched on all 4s, drew her head back, and belted out an earth-shattering roar. Clothing melted as she grew and her skin changed into ocean blue scales. Bones snapped and cracked as a pair of wings and a tail exploded from Kronos' human form. Her neck lengthened as her head became lizard-like. Kronos' arms and legs grew into solid scale-covered limbs. The hands and feet were replaced by paws and claws with a sharp tear. With a final crack, Kronos flexed her muscles and sighed in relief. Phew, I was beginning to get cramped in that form. She glanced at where the genin stood only to find that she had fainted. Oh dear. Hinata awoke to a deep humming sound. Looking up, she saw a sea of glistening blue scales. She called out softly, afraid of possibly getting eaten. Kronos? Yes? Kronos replied as she watched with interest as Tsunade was attempting to calm a group of shinobi that were startled by her earlier roar. Ano, what are you exactly? Kronos gave a soft chuckle. What? Think about it. Kronos nudged Hinata so that the young Hyuga could approach where Kronos' head was. Large bat-like wings, a tail, 4 legs AC Choo. She sneezed, sending a bright blue flame flying. And breathes fire. That should narrow down the field a lot, Kronos clued. Hinata racked her brains for a living creature that met the specifications of what Kronos had said. However, the blue dragon's words did match with a mythical creature. You're a dragon? You got it. I'm the fastest one ever born, too. Kronos confirmed. And your brother? He is the strongest one ever born. Of course, we could spar evenly with him and win. Hinata remembered why they were even on top of the monument. You said that you were giving me a privilege? Kronos nudged Hinata. Climb up and strap in. The Hyuga heir looked up to see a saddle on Kronos' back where the neck joined the body. As she climbed, she accidentally brushed a rather ticklish spot on Kronos. She was forced to stop when Kronos began to squirm. Hinata exclaimed, quit wiggling. Hey, you brushed a ticklish spot so I can't help it. Kronos giggled as she fought to control the small tongues of flame escaping her mouth. Hinata finally settled on the saddle and was trying to figure out the straps on the side when they jumped out of her hands and strapped her legs snugly to the side. She sent a questioning look at Kronos. The dragon shrugged, bethought of it. It makes the prep for flight a little faster. Oh, I see. Hinata sighed. The dragon ran for the edge of the cliff. Wait, fly h. She screamed as Kronos dove over the end of the cliff. Hinata's screams were quickly silenced by the air as it forcefully began to fill her lungs. She was barely able to hang on to the pommel as Kronos pulled out of her power dive and soared upwards. Hinata looked over the side and was amazed at how quickly the landscape was zooming by. She braced as Kronos prepared to soar even higher. Well? Kronos thought. This is amazing, breathed Hinata. Kronos gave a chuckle. Wait until you see the view after the clouds. The dragon promptly flew into a large cloud bank, wings beating powerfully to maintain the height. Hinata shivered slightly as the water molecules chilled her skin. As soon as Kronos flew out of the bank, Hinata saw the view and gaped. The view blew her away. The late afternoon sun, she was unconscious for a while, bathed the clouds in a fiery orange glow. The landscape painted to a similar color, but it had more green in the shade. The mountains to the south rippled of gray, white, and red that shifted as the turtle clouds progressed slowly across the sky. Shifting her gaze forward, Hinata was greeted with the sight of late afternoon Konoha. The village was enfolded by the sun's subtle orange caress. At certain points, she could spot the unhurried movement of the crowd that filled the streets. She even spotted the Hyuga estate. Glancing downwards, Hinata caught sight of the bright orange figure of Naruto as he made his way to the training ground. At this point, Kronos belted out another roar and was answered by screams, jutsus, and weapons that flew short or missed her. Well, what do you think? Kronos asked the Hyuga. Wow, B was given this. Hi. Now take all that you have just seen, and multiply it by 5. That is how much we owe him. Hinata was shocked. Your race owes him that much? Hi, all because he freed us. Out of all that he could have done, he gave us our freedom back. He paid the price by becoming the host for the strongest dragon demon, one stronger than Kyubi. Why? Hinata became appalled. In order to gain something of equal value must be paid. He freed us. In exchange he willingly became a Jinchuriki. Hinata heard a soft moan. After what we took from him, after everything, he forgave us. The very person that Kronos was speaking of was meditating when the second roar alerted him. Standing, he stretched and spotted Tsunade, Hayashi, Niji, Kakashi, Kurenai, Sasuke, Sakura, Kiba and Naruto walking through the entry. He began to walk towards them, but stopped as a voice seeped into his head. So you finally decided? Oi, shut it. It is high time that I did take him under my wing. And you still need to decide on that main ability of yours. Don't change the subject. Then the obligation you gave Yandame is false? You are doing this because of the fact you are related to Dash. That's quite enough, Gondra. Look, Yubaka, I may only be a few years old, but even I can tell you are nervous about this. I'll back off for now. I'm just glad I get front row seats when this whole thing blows up in your face. Thanks for the vote of confidence, B thought grimly, as he watched Kronos glide down with Hinata on the saddle. Kronos sent one last mental beam to Hinata, Don't tell Naruto about B. Why? Because he wants to tell him himself. The dragon landed with a thump and a small run. The saddle straps unlatched and Hinata slid off the saddle, landed and stumbled. Kronos chuckled. It will take some time to stretch your muscles. Okay. Hinata replied. She paused and turned back to the now human Kronos. Kronos? Hi, arigato. You didn't need to do that. Kronos knelt down so that her head was the same height as Hinata's. Would you like to know what I see when I look at you? Hi. Hinata answered. I see a lovely girl, a little on the pale side but healthy. In getting to know you, that changes. I see a girl who has a spine and isn't afraid of most things, but is afraid that if she shows that spine, it will only get crushed. I see a kind and caring girl who happens to have a crush on the loudest knucklehead this side of Dragon Country. Hinata blushed at this. I won't tell. You also have enormous strength, not in body. Kronos placed her hand on Hinata's belly, but in spirit. She moved her hand to cover Hinata's heart. It will take some time for it to manifest in your strength, but it will happen. Until that time, stay strong. And Kronos winked at her. Fight like a girl, okay? Hinata nodded as happiness filled her. Finally, someone other than her team that didn't see her as useless. Kronos stood as Kurenai came over to where she stood. Kurenai said, "Thank you for giving her that speech." Kronos smiled. Everyone needs encouragement. But everyone has a different way of getting it. Walking over to where B stood, she said, and Hinata, the Hyuga heiress, looked at the dragon. You would have to be the densest person on the planet not to notice it. B looked around to see that everything was in place. Alright, Uzumaki Naruto and Hyuga Hinata, please step forward. Naruto stood in front of the new senseis, energy pouring out of every single pore of his body. Hinata stood beside him, calm on the surface, but her nervousness and newfound confidence showing through her eyes. B continued, this is a match that will best determine the course of your training. If you attempt to fight to win, you will lose, Naruto protested but was quickly silenced by a glare from Kronos. But either way, fight to the best of your limits and abilities. You have any jutsu that you know under your disposal. This fight has no time limit. There are more rules for the 2 exams that you will be taking, but I'll cover those later. Now when I say, the battle will commence. Naruto, Hinata, are you ready? Just get started already. I'm always ready, Naruto exclaimed. Hinata gave a quick nod before she could hesitate. B smiled like he was already picking the flowers for their funeral. Very well. Begin. As soon as B said go, Naruto pulled out a Naruto army using multi-shadow clone jutsu. To Naruto's surprise, either were impressed. Keeping an eye on the clones, B said, I call the clones, and Hinata, you take the chakra wonder. Kronos nodded as she watched the clones draw kunais. And if he goes fox? Throw him into the woods. I'll send Hinata out and deal with him, B said grimly. He bent down and placed his hand on the ground while focusing chakra into his legs. He jumped, going impossibly fast into the air. Naruto ignored the disappearance of B and told the clones to charge Kronos. The clones were 5 feet away when a shout came from the sky, flaming earth style. Meteor impact no jutsu. B came hurtling down surrounded by a boulder that was covered in flames. He hit the ground, forming a good-sized crater and eliminating some of the clones in the hit. Then the shockwave dealt with the other clones. Naruto found himself speechless and grinned on the inside. He had something to pester B into teaching him. B exploded out of the rock towards Hinata. She quickly struck at him, closing several chakra points. He unleashed a vicious kick toward her side. She blocked, but the sheer strength of the kick sent her flying into the forest, narrowly missing the spectators that were watching. Kiba began to head to where Hinata was, but B stopped him. Kiba and Akamaru flinched when they saw his blue and white eyes. Don't. She can only fight to her limit if no one is watching. The fight in the preliminaries was due to her hidden stubbornness and her own will. I want to see her abilities, he said in a low voice and took off after her. Hinata flew for several yards and several tree branches before she flipped and skidded on her feet in a clearing a good ways away from the original battle area. A kunai flew to where she had landed. Dodging, she failed to notice the small bead on the end of the handle. A large ice spike erupted into the sky, narrowly missing Hinata but slicing a this cut along her leg up to her hip. Hiding in a tree, B launched more of the ice kunais at Hinata, while evaluating her evasive abilities. She's got a good pair of eyes. Now let's see if she can take the offensive. After avoiding the last ice kunai, Hinata finally activated her Byakugan and proceeded to try and locate the elusive sensei. Spotting him near the top of a nearby tree, she flash-stepped behind him and launched a palm strike at B. He used his own hand to push the strike's direction away from his body. Hinata, noticing this, pressed her juken assault. This continued for several minutes, Hinata sending strike after strike and redirecting them. B examined her power behind the strike as he let one strike land and continued to redirect the others. She's got a pretty strong chakra. If she learns the juken style that woman knew, she would be a force to be reckoned with. Now let's check her defense. He diverted one last attack and struck at the Hyuga. She gasped as the strike hit. The strike itself didn't surprise her, but the fact that the fist was surrounded by flames did. Hinata quickly jumped out of B's strike range and prepared herself for the inevitable attack. He sent a flaming hook at her but was stopped by the chakra shield that she was forming with her hands at an alarming speed and crying out 8 trigrams 64 palms defense. Guardian's shield. The power behind the shield increased as B soon found himself in a bind with his fist stuck to the shield. He quickly set up his own defense. The shield exploded outwards, sending B flying into a tree with a solid crack. Hinata fell to one knee. With doing all the palm strikes and now her own version of the Kaiten, she was close to exhausting her chakra supply. She had to wrap this up quickly. B stood as the earth that protected him from the backlash fell. He smiled thinly. You forced me to get serious. He put on a pair of reflective sunglasses. Hinata immediately sensed a large chakra flow to his eyes, but couldn't make sense of it or see it. It was like his sunglasses blocked the Byakugan. He charged her, using a palm strike similar to the Juken. She attempted to guard, but his hand snaked its way through her guard and landed solidly on her stomach. She didn't feel pain, which surprised her. B used a Juken strike but didn't harm her. She felt an unknown chakra in her stomach as B did a back flip into the air and landed next to the large chain of ice spikes. When he made 2 hand signs and smirked, she began to become afraid. B said ice style, icicle missiles jutsu. As soon as he finished speaking, the spikes on the pillars of ice detached, and made a rather speedy beeline for her. Hinata gasped. B hadn't attacked her, instead he marked her for his next jutsu. As the missiles streaked towards her, Hinata dodged, sending chakra to her legs to boost her reaction time. But even then the speeding missiles grazed her on her limbs. She landed on the ground with a solid thump, and her Byakugan deactivated as her chakra flow ran dry. B deactivated his eyes, put the sunglasses in a hidden pocket, and offered his hand to Hinata. You did rather well, considering everything that has happened to you. Arigato, sensei. The Hyuga heir said in a halting breath. B froze. What? Your cuts from the last attack, they're gone. Hinata looked down at her limbs and saw what he meant. They were probably just light grazes. He shook his head. Those were rather large cuts. Is it possible? Hinata, could you stay still for a second? She complied. B quickly signed a jutsu to cause earth tendrils to wrap around her limbs and lie her on the ground. The last thing that Hinata saw was B's hair, and the last thing she heard was B crying, Mystic art, soul dive. Her world went black. Several minutes ago, Naruto began to go check on Hinata, but Kronos blocked his way. Her voice was her dragon voice and not a regular human. Your fight is with me, Naruto Uzumaki. She hissed at the blonde. Growling fine. Naruto realized that he was fighting a seasoned and extremely tough opponent that could change shapes and had an unknown amount of attacks at her disposal. He summoned more shadow clones and prepared to attack her. Off to the sidelines, Kiba was wondering something. Shouldn't Naruto be extremely low on chakra now? If you were listening to what B said earlier, Naruto's a chakra freak. He could do this several times and barely get winded. Kakashi answered. Not to mention he's got some very powerful jutsus under his belt. Mentally he added, and that's not even including Kyuubi's chakra. Kronos seemed unconcerned. Activating an elemental ability, she formed a large boulder in front of her and sent it flying into the clone army, who vanished with several poofs and curse words. Naruto sent the clones at her, transformed into a rock, and crept closer while spinning a Rasengan in his hand. Still using the earth element, Kronos leapt into the air, summoned the earth flail, which looked like a glowing green ball and energy link, and slammed it into the ground. This resulted in shock waves that shattered nearby trees and dispelled the clones. Seizing his chance, Naruto released the transformation and leapt at the airborne dragon. The instant the chakra sphere touched Kronos, she vanished and the Rasengan was dispelled as well. He had just enough time to look confused before a shape shot out of the clouds, hit him, slammed him into the ground, and pinned Naruto. When the dust settled, the sight of the shape Kronos was in terrified both Naruto and the spectators. She was a mix of a dragon and a woman. She had a woman's body, scales covering certain parts in an elaborate scheme. Kakashi had a slight nosebleed, but he's a pervert, but her limbs were draconic. Kronos had a tail, wings and her teeth were pointed. Naruto shivered as she smiled to the pinned shinobi. Damn it, he never should have came that close to hitting me with that. It's not as damaging as B's completed version, but still, Kronos thought he's a cut above me in the strategy apartment. He could overpower me, but that would take QB's chakra. She leapt off him and landed gracefully nearby. His evasion should be pretty good, but that strike never misses. Not to mention any damage he took from it is gone. Let's test you a little more. Standing, Naruto summoned 5 clones. One charged Kronos and punched her, yelling Naru. She took the blow and was kicked into the air by the remaining 4, who were roaring too. Naruto leapt on top of the first clone and while front flipping a kick, yelled Uzumaki Barrage. The kick landed on a log. Kronos appeared beneath Naruto and purred Dragon's aerial barrage. She sent him skyward and flew in several diagonals, similar to Lee's reverse lotus, with Naruto in the center. She struck 5 times and kicked him back to earth. He landed with a crash and was struggling to stand when she landed a fair distance away. Had enough? Kronos called. No way, he growled. He summoned one last shadow clone and began to form the Rasengan. Kronos knelt to the ground and on all 4s, formed a version of the Rasengan that B had invented. Naruto charged and thundered Rasengan. As he thrust the sphere toward the draconic woman, Kronos released her Rasengan and roared Dragon Breath, Rasengan Blast. As the sphere launched from her mouth to meet the incoming jutsu, there was silence, then an explosion rocked the early evening night as a large shockwave flattened trees and blew away the spectators. Sasuke was dumbfounded. He had just witnessed a dragon that annihilated a training ground in a finishing attack. Sasuke's eyes hardened. The dobe didn't deserve the training. Only the Uchiha should be given that power. As the dust settled, Kronos could be seen with her hand in a strike position over a now prone Naruto's throat. Checkmate, she said. Kronos moved to allow him to get up. I've got to admit, you made me very nervous at times. You pass. Yes. Naruto yelled and was jumping up and down like a child at Christmas with millions of presents. Kronos gazed at him. He was just like his mother, a complete bundle of energy. What about Hinata? He said after doing a small victory dance. I believe she passed, but Kronos went ridged. Nanny? It's Hinata. B found something. Niji and Hayashi were by the dragon in a flash. What did he find? He's not sure. B shit you idiota, Kronos cursed. She pointed in a direction a little to the left of where Hinata and B had disappeared. Everyone, go in that direction. I'm running ahead. What's going on? Tsunade yelled. B is figuring that out now. He's in pain, though. Hurry! Mystic art, soul dive. Hinata's world went black. She awoke to find that she was in a small room. Looking around quickly, it was her bedroom. And it was very quiet. Hello? Hinata called out. She opened her bedroom door and saw a large expanse of land and pictures floating in the air. Upon closer inspection, she found that the pictures were actually her memories. Hello? The Hyuga heiress called again. Hello? Came back the echo. Please stop doing that, it's creepy. Came a male voice beside her. Hinata jumped out of her skin and fell flat on her, but as B fought hard not to laugh. After getting up and dusting herself off, Hinata demanded, where are we? This is your mindscape. This is what your mind looks like. Don't worry, everyone's looks like this. Although, he glanced at the box that was her room, only a few have locked memories of crushes. Hinata blushed fiercely and began to speak. B shushed her and winked. I won't tell. I promise. There was a deep rumble and a female voice spoke softly. Who dares to enter the mind of my host? Well, that confirms that theory, B thought as he said, reveal yourself and I will do the same. Whispering, he said to the female Hyuga, always show respect to higher creatures. You'll live longer. There was a pause. The voice answered very well. The mindscape blurred and zoomed by until Hinata and B were standing in front of a large barred door, similar to a door to a jail cell. A spell tagged with the kanji 4 seal locked the door. As the two humans watched, a large white figure came into view. On the other side of the door, a snow-white fox sat glaring at the sensei. It had golden eyes and silver stripes around the eyes, similar to the pattern on Kyubi's head. 9 pure white tails flicked behind her, showing her agitation. After giving B the death glare, the fox turned to Hinata and said, Welcome, Hinata-sama, to my prison. Silvery white chakra streamed out of the fox's side of the room and encircled Hinata. B clutched his stomach. Unbelievable, a celestial being, he murmured as the dragon in his belly shifted uneasily. Correct. I am Leilani, the celestial 9-tailed fox. And judging by your reaction and the odd smell of your chakra, you are not the host of Kyubi. Leilani said. You are correct. I am B, the The jailer of the young 10-tailed dragon, Gondra. Leilani nodded. I suspect that is not your real name. B stiffened and nodded. Hinata looked at him curiously before asking Ano, Leilani-san? Hi, Hinata-sama? Why couldn't I tell that you were here? In me? I was sealed by a shaman when you were but a baby. Your mother did it shortly after your birth. The shaman died, but not before he gave your mother the key to revealing me to you. Leilani explained. It blocked any connection you might have had with me. Excuse me, B interrupted. As much as I hate to break up this lovely chat, the jutsu I cast is nearing the maximum time limit. Leilani-san, would you like me to alter the seal to one similar to the one Yondiame used? Yes, please. And Hinata, the Hyuga paused as B led her away from the seal. I have seen all that has happened to you. The good and the bad. You have done nothing to be ashamed of. You fought valiantly against Niji. You are not a hindrance, the fox said, but rather a gentle person in an extremely rich family. Don't be afraid to break the mold. You may lose something, but you will gain something more. Now go, and keep on fighting. Kronos arrived to see Hinata awaking and be sitting like he was meditating a few feet away from her. Hinata! The transformed dragon ran over to help her up. What happened? I am not sure. The young girl replied. Kronos turned and bared her teeth at B, who didn't even flinch. I'll ask again. What? Happened? Suddenly memories flowed into her brain, and she stood stock still as realization came over her. Holy sh! Hey, we have virgin ears listening. B said. Kronos glared at him before her expression softened. This changes everything. Like everything. No kidding. Agreed B. At this moment, the spectators arrived. B dismissed the genin to the battle zone that Naruto and Kronos clashed at. He turned to the group of adults. You may wish to sit down for this. After everyone found a seat, he explained, I'm no good at being blunt, so I'll cut to the chase. Hinata is a Jinchuriki. Silence. Then Tsunade spoke up. Are you serious? Konoha has 2 Jinchuriki? Technically it will have 3, but they don't need to know that I'm joining, B thought. Yes, I'm serious, and yes. She has the celestial 9-tailed fox Leilani inside her. According to Leilani, she was sealed shortly after Hinata's birth. He turned to Hayashi. Did Hinata's mother disappear with Hinata at least once after her birth? Hayashi nodded. She left to a temple about 2 days' journey from here. We can assume that is when the sealing occurred. Confirmed B. With your permission, Hayashi-sama, I wish to change the seal to one similar to the one Yondiame used on Kyubi. How much will Hinata be affected? Asked Kurenai. Well, typical effects are increased chakra, the ability to tap Leilani's chakra, some increased senses, and a physical change. The senses and change vary between Biju, and in Hinata's case, she will have to relearn some basic jutsus. The Hyuga head nodded. Very well, you may. When will you do it? After the pursuit exam. They should have no difficulty passing, but the true test will be even harder. B said lightly as the adults and dragon moved to rejoin the genins. What exactly happened back there, Hinata-sama? Niji asked her in quiet tones as they waited for the adults to finish. Hinata looked quickly around to ensure that one would or could overhear, and told him. He thought out loud, so you're like him. Like who? The heiress inquired. Niji froze. He had spent a bit of time trying to figure out what the strange red chakra was that flowed out of Naruto during the final exam. After several hours and some scouring of reports later, he had deduced that Naruto was the child that played the jailer of Kyubi. He was one of the few that could see him as the jailer, not the beast itself. Niji replied coolly, It's not my place to say. Hinata knew that her cousin was loyal to keeping secrets, and wouldn't tell. At the same time, he was laughing hysterically in his head over what might happen when Naruto and Hinata left with B and Kronos. He and Shino had a bet against Kiba about how long it would take the knucklehead to figure out that she liked him. The duo had 1.5 years. Kiba was betting on never. B had overheard them and said that he would let them know when he found out. Kiba was congratulating Naruto. You know, you look good covered in bruises. To illustrate his point, he socked him in the back. Oh whoa. Naruto arched his back and hopped in a circle. I get it, no need to get physical. You did good for a loser. Sneered Sasuke as he stood under a nearby tree. Ignore him. He's still sore from the beating you gave him in the Valley of the End. Kiba said. By the way, what was with that jutsu that she used at the end? I know I heard Rasengan, but that was what you were using. Naruto began to reply, but Kronos' voice cut in. It's a unique jutsu that be invented as an alternative to the actual jutsu. Only him and dragons trained in chakra usage can use it. B barely had time to enter the field when Sasuke was all over him. Train me. B's answer came out so fast that everyone excluding Kronos was shocked. No, why not? I'm stronger than that Naruto though. Hey! Naruto began, but B silenced him with a glare. Prove it. B uttered the most famous words anyone dreaded. Pointing at a nearby training post, he said, attack that with your strongest jutsu. Fine. Chidori! Instantly the night was filled with the sound of chirping birds. The Uchiha survivor sprinted to the post and slammed the jutsu into it, leaving a sizable dent in it. B snorted. Please, that was weak. No offense, Kakashi. Kakashi's reply was cut off as B continued. Naruto's best jutsu is the Rasengan, a Class A jutsu when uncompleted, and a Class S when completed along with any variations of it. And Naruto's training has to do with some. He placed his hand over his sternum, just below the neckline. Unfinished business and a promise to Yanyan when I was working on a style that only he, and now Hinata, can use. Please, don't get all teary-eyed now. I'd be the embarrassment of the entire world right now, Gondra said sarcastically. Shut up. Now, fine, I'll get stronger my own way. Sasuke stalked off of the training ground. B grinded his teeth. I'm going to have a serious talk with that boy before we leave. Anyway, the second exam will be at dawn tomorrow. Nani? Why not now? Naruto exclaimed. Because I used up a lot of chakra trying to figure out what was with Hinata that was actually a lie. He used very little chakra finding that out, but Naruto didn't need to know that, which you still haven't told us about. I'm leaving it to Hinata to choose who to tell. It's her secret. Although, I'd tell him soon, he thought to Hinata. She nodded in agreement. Alright, Hinata, you'll sleep by Kronos, and Naruto, you're with me. We'll be sleeping here tonight. He dismissed everyone, and soon a small blaze crackled beneath the trees. Kronos slept in dragon form with Hinata, who was sound asleep in a sleeping bag, wrapped in her wing. Naruto snored from the tent that he set up, and bestoked the fire. He leaned back against a tree and thought about what had happened that day. Because of the dragon's knowledge of Biju and otherworldly beings, he was able to put a fair amount of research into the celestial Biju. However, even dragons have limits. The only thing he could find was hints at the creatures, so sightings were extremely rare. They tended to keep to themselves and not disturb the mortal world. Hell, even sealing one was a feat, and the odds of even doing it were astronomical. Now he needed a key for Hinata, and both children needed a twig snapped nearby. B was instantly alert, and quickly vanished into the shadows while pulling out a pistol. A large muscled man with dark green hair, B spotted as he moved around the man to approach him from behind, was creeping towards the campsite. Moving quickly, he placed the pistol on the back of the man's head, causing him to freeze. B said in a deadly tone, I suggest that you answer me and not try anything funny. Understand? The man stood and turned to meet the twin-colored gaze with emerald green eyes. B started and lowered the pistol. Terra firma, I didn't recognize you. The dragon in disguise nodded. I can understand that. I don't usually take a human form. Any news of the council? Terra looked away. They decided. And? You are allowed to enter the wildlands once. After you leave. Terra stiffened and grew sad. Exile. B finished bitterly. I knew this would happen, ever since Rismak took over Old and Farnick's place. He's been trying to get me kicked out since I joined. I'm sorry. The Emerald Dragon said. And the punishment should we enter Shamadam to land again? Orders are to kill you on sight, and Kronos is to be captured and judged. B grasped Terra's shoulder. You did what you could. That's all the more I could ask for. He pulled out a small metal orb and pressed it into Terra's hand. Blue lights flashed and turned green. You're welcome to Nervasium any time you need a place to stay or to hide. Provided you make it across the war zone first. Terra nodded and wiped his eyes. Thank you? I'm moving her out of the city the moment I get back. Will you be telling Kronos? I'll only tell her about the exile. She doesn't need to worry about the punishments. B pulled out a tag from his pouch and handed it to the dragon. We are shifting training plans but should still pass through. Here's a quick rundown of what happened. Very well, Terra pocketed the tag. Give Kronos my love, will you? Will do, and Terra, the dragon, turned. B offered his hand. Terra took it and bumped chests. Stay strong, man. Fight on, brother, was the reply. Terra walked away into the night. B returned to the fire and resumed tending it. Hinata awoke to hear the crackling of flame and a slight wind racing through the trees. Crawling carefully out of her nook in Kronos' wing, she sat by the hearty flames to warm up. Listening, she heard someone singing. She looked up to see B sitting near the top of a tree, singing. Hinata climbed up to his level and sat next to him. They said nothing for moments as B stared into the stars before asking, "How are you feeling?" "And nervous," and she answered. "Afraid?" he finished. She nodded. "I can understand that. In the process of one evening, your entire life has been turned upside down." "Sensei, I was wondering about Leilani." "Ask away. What do you know about her?" "I do hate to disappoint, but precious little about her type and even less about her." Hinata hung her head. "What I do know is this: you'll have plenty of time to learn from her, and you have been given an enormous honor and a terrible curse." The sensei said sadly. "Ano, what do you mean?" the young Hyuga asked. "When one seals a biju inside a human, the biju's soul will eventually fuse with the host's soul. When the host dies, so does the biju," he explained. "And if the biju is extracted from the seal, the biju will live while the host dies. That's horrible." Hinata breathed. "Go wake Naruto. I have something I wish to tell the two of you." Shortly, Naruto and Hinata were sitting bright-eyed and bushy-tailed across from B. The moon chose at this time to spread its silvery hands over the black sky to bath the training grounds in white silver and shadows. "Naruto," the boy looked up. Hinata, the heiress, looked into the twin-colored orbs of B's eyes. "I have decided to tell you a little about myself. I will say this once, so pay attention. Oh, a bedtime story. I just loves a bedtime story." "Shut up," B thought as he mentally punched the dragon, and began his tale. Terra walked briskly through the woods surrounding the silent city of Konoha. A scent drifted across his nose. He froze and called out, "Come out, Velper, and bring your henchmen too." A dozen figures suddenly stood in a circle surrounding the emerald-haired man. A 13th walked out and hissed, "You were always good at sniffing out hidden people, and you were always bad at making jokes, even before my sealing into my friend." Terra shot back with so much venom that Orochimaru would have been proud and terrified. "What the hell do you want? We were given a mission with 4 objectives." Velper said sinisterly as the group transformed into 13 pitch-black dragons. "1. Locate you, 2. Use you to find the soon-to-be exiles." Terra transformed into his dragon shape and flexed his enormous muscles. 3. Capture and torture you, and 4. Send you ruined and torn up to the 2 traitors before killing all 3 of you. Velper made a motion and chaos and ruin ruled that clearing as the ever-watching but never-speaking moon watched the battle unfold. "First and foremost, understand that I have done many things in my life. Some I regret, some I wish I could go back and relive. I am the Jinchuriki of Gondra, the 10-tailed dragon. He is young, and yearns to know more about life outside the seal. I was not chosen to be a part of Kronos' clan. The elders simply had me represent terra firma and Kronos, at least until I found a way to release them. Even after, the elders let me stay, for I had information on the clan that could reveal them to the entire world. In relation to how I know about Konoha and the other nations, I knew Yondaime. As fate would have it, we met in the last Shinobi War. He was one of the few outside of my small circle of friends that could even boast of being able to kick my ass and have the power to do so. When we first clashed, it was a tie. We ended up exhausted and swore that once we were well rested, we would finish the battle. He even stopped other Leaf Shinobi from attacking me so that we could finish. Then he beat me. It was 14 years ago, and at the time, Kronos and Terra were still in me. We became close friends, even though other shinobi greatly disapproved of me. Kind of funny how trying to kill each other made us good friends. Anyways, we both fought in sparring matches against each other, and kept handing each other's asses on silver platters to each other. I have to admit, I was saddened when I saw him die. The good almost always die young. Due to my singing career, I traveled a lot, but through frog messaging, we would trade letters. Oftentimes we be about old times. Other times, we helped each other with jutsu creation and how to manage our relationships. In fact, he helped me with creating the jutsu that I used when we were testing the Meteor Impact no Jutsu. The one time I came back to Konoha was just a few days before Kyuubi's attack. His wife had just given birth to a beautiful baby boy, and he was preparing for the sealing. I helped out by evacuating civilians to safer areas, but not everyone made it. Then, the day came. It took many lives to lure the fox to the actual sealing point. I used Terra's and Kronos' chakra and activated all but one of the inner gates to render Kyuubi immobile. Yondaime did the rest. After the sealing, he made me promise to look after the child as best I could. Then he died. I later found out his wife was among the people that lured Kyuubi to the sealing. And I never found Yondaime's son. The council forbade me from making any sort of contact with the child, at least until he learned of his own secret. So, I watched from afar, developing the style that I had massive hopes for. Just before I left for the Dragon Council, I came upon Yondaime's notes on some of my theories that I mentioned to him. This led me to discover spirit and mood songs. I'll tell you about it when we reach our destination. Upon arriving at the Dragon Council, I released Kronos and Terra, which set off several drastic events. Gondra appeared to fill the space in the seal, and the dragons were forced to seal me in a cave while Gondra and I fought for control of my body. FYI, dragons are notoriously tough. Take the strongest, toughest creature that you know, and multiply it by 10. I managed to kill about 5 and wounded several more before they sealed me. It took a month before I defeated him. Now armed with Gondra and Yondiame's notes on my ideas and style, I perfected said style but am currently expanding it. Everything has a price. This style is no different. I began to travel, I did some singing tours and gained immense popularity. Eventually, with some help, I found a place that Jinchuriki can be safe and managed to find some priceless items. I tell you this not to get your pity or praise, but to try and help you understand how I know Konoha and to gain your trust. I have many secrets I can't tell you right now, but in time, I may tell you. Be stood and stretched. Now, get to sleep both of you, you have a big day tomorrow. Both Jonin climbed down without a single complaint from Naruto. He clambered back into his tent, and almost instantly could be heard snoring. Hinata crawled carefully back into her nook in Kronos' wing, and slumbered. Kronos, however, was wide awake. Why did you not tell Naruto about his parents? The Sapphire Dragon asked. You would have lifted a great burden, because he is who he is because of how he grew up, he explained as he settled into his tree branch. And his father asked me to not tell him until the right time. The following morning, Naruto woke up to see the missing form of Kronos and Hinata was sound asleep in the same spot that Kronos' wing had rested. Rubbing his eyes, he noticed a note stuck to a kunai on a tree. Pulling it down, he read, Naruto and Hinata, your pursuit exam begins as soon as you are both awake. You will be capturing 2 creatures I summoned. They are both kinda easy to spot and very hard to chase and to capture. Hinata, your target is Sapphire, and Naruto, your target is Ruby. Kronos and I will be by the lake if you need anything. P.S. You might not see them but they will see you. P.S. No time limit. While Naruto was reading the note, Hinata sat up and blinked the sleep out of her eyes. Hey, Hinata! Take a look at this. He thrust the note towards her. She scanned it sleepily. She was not a fast riser. What does he mean by Ruby and Sapphire? Heck if I know, but let's get started. 30 minutes later. Where are they? Naruto and Hinata had been searching the training grounds with no sign of the creatures at all. Hinata was running her Byakugan, and Naruto had fielded an army of shadow clones to aid in the search. And Naruto, maybe we should go as sensei for advice. Hinata suggested. Naruto was about to refuse, stubborn as he is, when he felt a large quantity of clones poof out of existence. He started and turned his head in the direction of the attack. Wait! A lot of my clones just disappeared and I don't know how. Well, let's go look. B was lounging on a tree branch when he began to get a queasy feeling. He excused himself from Kronos' company, even though she was basking in the sun and more than likely asleep. He took a path that led him past the gates of Konoha. He stood next to a post, watching as civilians walked on, only caring about what came next. It's funny how almost everyone who fought that night has forgotten the fear and uncertainty Gondra voiced in B's mindscape. True, but for those of us that have seen many years and had many sieges to fight off, there will always be memories. For example, I seem to recall that fight over at the Northern Kingdom when the barbarians tried to take over the castle. Didn't you and Kronos lead a battalion of men to hold the gates? And only 2 survived that battle, and we still lost that siege. You win some, you lose some. It sucks, but that's the way life is. B looked up soon enough to see 13 dark-clothed men and women approach the gate. He was also in hearing distance for the discussion between them and the 2 gate guards. Dark One, have you seen this person? Guard 1, actually, yes. He came in Konoha just yesterday. I seem to recall he was being chased by a large group of girls. Dark 2, did he have a companion? Guard 2, yes, a stunning lady with blue hair and the most beautiful sapphire eyes I have ever seen. Why do you ask? Dark 2, no reason. B quickly vanished into the shadows. Shit. What? Shema Shadow Squad. This is so not good, B thought. I need to distract them from finding Kronos' scent. At that point the crowd opened up, revealing the 13 warriors. B took a deep breath and whispered, Death, guide my strikes and comfort me should I fall in this battle. B then made a shadow clone, of which took off towards the center of town after receiving a scroll from the original. He then walked into the middle of the street and faced the squad. B said, so they send the shadow to kill me? Velper, I thought I smelled your scent. The entire squad froze and transformed into their dragon shapes, causing panic in the crowd. The guards ran off to get the Hokage and Anbu. Velper hissed, "Where is she? Where is the heiress of time? Oh, see, that is just plain rude. You won't even say her name!" B exclaimed. "Actually, I should be asking you," he hissed back as killer intent blasted out of him. "What the fuck did you do with Terra?" All of the shinobi who arrived on the scene were frozen stiff from the killer intent radiating from B. Tsunade was even trembling as she watched the standoff. Velper sneered, "Do you mean the heir of space? We left him in the clearing that we fought in. Last I saw, he was struggling to bray a dash." A shot rang out in the muffling silence, causing everyone gathered to wince. B was holding one of his pistols, which still had some smoke coming out the barrel. Velper's face had a cut that began to bleed. B's hiss was so venomous that even Orochimaru shivered many miles away. "Again, you will not even say his name." But even as he said this, he sent Kronos a mental message warning her and asking her to get Terra. "Gondra, lend me your power." Icy blue chakra began to form around B as Gondra's chakra enveloped him. He began to flash through 9 hand seals faster than anyone had ever seen before. After that, his hands revealed that they were holding the dragon hand seal as B thundered, Jinchuriki art, Ascendant Dragon no Jutsu. The 2 genin were exhausted. Hinata had found 2 creatures that had the exact same body shape as the other. The dragons reminded her of birds but without feet. They had 2 wings on their backs and their arms could be folded into their bodies to make them more aerodynamic. They were virtually twins, but one was blue and the other was red. Hinata caught on quickly as to which one she was supposed to catch. Naruto, being the knucklehead that he is, charged right at them. Both flew off, and he ended up with a lump on his head for crashing into the tree that was standing behind them. Then he promptly gave chase, with Hinata close behind him. The duo never caught up. Naruto froze as the 2 entered the open area that Kronos was basking in. He felt Kyuubi shift uneasily. He asked the trapped kitsune, "What's the matter, Fox? There is something going on in the village. And I'm feeling a very powerful chakra signature near the gate." "Thank Kami, you both are alright," the female dragon exclaimed as the genin approached her. "The exam is cancelled, you both need to get to your homes now." "What? Why?" Naruto yelped in surprise. "Assassins from the shadow branch of the Shamadam have arrived to take me back and to kill B," she explained before being interrupted by the hyperactive blonde. "Then what are you doing sending us home?" Naruto demanded. "We can." "No, you can't help him, Naruto, not now." Kronos hissed back, not to be mean but to get his attention. "Remember what he said about how tough dragons are? There are 13 of them, and you currently don't even have the strength to fight one." She sighed. "I could have Latios and Latias take you over the battle and keep you from interfering," Hinata asked. "Who are Latios and Latias?" Kronos smiled as best as she could in her dragon state, and made a low trumpeting sound. Within seconds the twin dragons appeared behind the 2 genin. The blue one said, "You called Kronos-sama? I told you no honorifics Latios, just Kronos. I want you 2 to take Hinata and Naruto above where B is fighting. Don't let them get involved, and if he needs help, one of you is to help him," Kronos stated. Latias, the red dragon, replied, "Very well, Kronos. Naruto, please climb up and do be careful." After seeing the young Jinchuriki clamber up, Kronos quoted an odd phrase that dragons had long since stopped saying. "May the ancestors look after you, may they look after us all. Now go, begin Protectors of the Earth by 2 steps from hell." As B said the name of the jutsu, his body began to rapidly change. A tail erupted out of the seat of his jumpsuit just as 2 dragon wings tore through the vest and unfolded into the sky. B's face elongated and his bone structure shifted to the point that he was almost standing on all 4s. His nails sharpened and lengthened as scales further shredded his jumpsuit as they came into being. His already strong muscles completed what the rest of the transformation had done as they became extremely thicker. This caused several of the kuniochi and civilian ladies to get small nosebleeds. A line of fin-like objects appeared on his back and trailed down his spine. As the final transformation appeared, B rumbled, "Sujian Byakugan, activate." The ocular jutsu quickly changed his one crystal blue eye into the white eye of a Hyuga and both eyes became covered in silver with blue hues. Velper laughed evilly. "You think that we haven't done our homework before taking this mission? Have you even told the leader your true identity yet?" He paused as shock enveloped Tsunade's face. "Oops, did I say something I shouldn't have? You have 30 seconds to explain to me what the hell he is talking about before I pound you into the dust," Tsunade threatened. B sighed. "I was going to tell you before we left the village, but looks like my hand is being forced to be played." He turned to Tsunade and said, "Do you trust me?" This question threw everyone off their guard, including the 2 genin that were now floating above the battle. What? Tsunade managed to sputter out. It's not that hard to decipher or understand. Do you trust me? Simple yes or no question. Tsunade was shocked twice over, once for the sensei withholding of information to his true identity, and twice for his question. She quickly looked over her memories of B and found no reason to distrust him. But even then, the withholding of information crucial to her decision left her with wanting to pound him. The Hokage looked deeply into the transformed shinobi's eyes and replied, yes, but I'm still going to make ground beef out of you. B chuckled, I expected no less. Turning to face the squad of dragons, he looked up, too late to react to the falling 20-ton boulder that one of the black dragons had thrown. Sensei! Naruto and Hinata's cries were heard as the boulder slammed into the ground, effectively crushing the man. As the dust settled, Sakura noticed that the boulder was moving up and down, similar to the way the boulders would move if Rock Lee and Might Guy were doing push-ups with boulders on their backs. The rest of the village was as shocked as her when they found that the sensei doing push-ups in the middle of a battle. B lobbed the boulder into the air, roaring, my true full name is Kaido Hyuga Namikaze Ryuga of the Shamadamta clan, Jinchuriki of Gondra the Ten-Tailed Dragon, master of the Jinchuriki arts, of the song style and arts, and finder of the lost temple of the dragon ancestors. I also am a renowned singer and am a bachelor. I enjoy homemade meals and long runs as well as keeping in touch with my friends even though it is hard to deliver letters. This statement made everyone crack up laughing, or smiling. Velper had a visible twitch on his face as he roared, get him, we have him outnumbered, he will never win. B just smiled and said, never say never. As the 12 dragons rushed him, he took off into the air with the black dragons closely following. He flew right by Latios and Latias, who both rushed to the ground to keep their charges out of the battle now in the sky. The dozen dragons' maws spat out dark fireballs, similar to Amaterasu, at the fleeing/strategically retreating sensei. B looked back and said, ha, you'll have to do better than that. He then spat a fireball with a tail to help stabilize the flight path. As the single fireball met the dozen dark fireballs, it exploded into a dozen smaller ones and caused secondary explosions to occur, effectively concealing B. When the smoke cleared, B was nowhere to be found. The dragons hovered in midair, frantically searching around them to find their quarry. They were so focused on finding him, they failed to notice the incoming polar bomb that was launched from a cloud high above them. The bomb exploded, freezing the hovering dragon's wings and causing the inner 6 to plummet to earth. The outer 6 were lucky, or unlucky depending on your point of view. In their points of view, being shredded and sliced by B's metal wing no jutsu as he speed by at near Mach velocity. Velper was furious as he scanned the crowd while ordering the 6 downed dragons to grab hostages. If they couldn't take him out with force, his cooperation would be forced. He quickly dashed forward and snatched up Sakura in his jaws. When he was back in his original position, he dropped her and placed his paw on her, while applying pressure to her causing several ribs to crack. The other half dozen emerged carrying Tuchi and Aya Michiraku, Irika, Hanabi, Hayashi, who got hit by a tail of a fallen dragon and is currently unconscious, and Niji Hyuga. Copying their leader, they waited until B had landed. He hissed, so this is how far the Shema have fallen, to taking hostages in order to kill one man. End protectors of the earth. Begin Heart of Courage by 2 steps from hell. Latios and Latias set Naruto and Hinata down near the outer edge of the battle circle. When the two looked at the hostages, Naruto's rage was rolling off him faster than a waterfall can flow water. Hinata was currently thinking in anger as well, I need to be stronger. I need to be stronger. They both almost charged before B's tail stopped them. As his Sujin Byakugan turned to look at them, he was surprised to feel electricity and heat emanating from the 2 genin. As his eyes pierced their bodies, he was amazed to see either Lalani's or Kyubi's chakra emerging from them, but rather the dragonic chakra of electricity and fire emerging from them. He was able to tap into the Ice Dragon chakra, but he could only do so when he was doing the Transcendent Dragon no Jutsu with his own chakra while fusing with Gondra's chakra. The words "don't do it" didn't even have time to reach his vocal box before both genin forced his tail out of their way to charge at the hostage takers. Latios and Latias were too late to stop them. Velper just chuckled. He prepared to launch a dark fireball when he saw them charge, but what came next shocked him to the core, literally. The dragons holding the Ikarakus, Irika and Sakura, were slammed into by Naruto, who had transformed into a blue ball of wild electricity, and hit them hard enough to slam them into the top part of the gates, which effectively collapsed from the force. Hinata launched an Enjiri red ball of flames at each of the dragons. Similar to what happened to the other 4, they were sent flying into the other dragons. After the dust and aura disappeared, Tsunade and the hostages, high as she had been woken up by the change in atmosphere, gaped at the now transformed Naruto and Hinata. Naruto had become a pitch-black dragon, but he stood on two legs. His tail formed a cone with the point of the cone being directed away from his body. Wings were sprouted from his back and his face had elongated while his head was now sporting a single horn-like protrusion from the back of his head. Naruto's hands became claws and even had a small extension over the claws to hide them. His tail seemed to be the biggest focal point of a powerful blue hue as electricity crackled around him. Hinata had become the total opposite form of Naruto. She was now a pure white dragon that stood on two legs as well, but her arms had become her wings. Similar to Naruto, Hinata also had a tail, but this one pointed inversely to Naruto's. White rings wrapped around the tail to complete the look. Her face had elongated as well and she had two protrusions similar to Naruto's out the back of her head. Hues of red and orange were changing the color of the tail as she stood there. Bee recognized their forms and filed this new information away. Naruto and Hinata were about to charge again, when both felt a chop on their necks, causing them to lose control of their new forms and forcing them into Morpheus' embrace. Bee now stood over them, having delivered the chop to their necks himself. As the other dragons struggled to rise, Bee roared, "This ends now, Dragon Art, Mega Flare no Jutsu." A seal appeared above Bee and began to spin, generating more and more energy. Redirecting said power, it was focused into the newly forming ball of destruction that Bee held in his open mouth. The sensei directed this orb towards the struggling dragons and said, "Say hello to death for me." The orb exploded outwards, piercing the center of the group. After a dozen nanoseconds, the beam expanded to engulf the pile of dragons, instantly killing them and vaporizing the bodies. As the jutsu ended, the trees and road were scorched black and the bodies were nothing more than a pile of ashes that quickly dispersed into the wind. End Heart of Courage. Releasing the transformation, Bee picked up his two unconscious students and glanced over the ex-hostages. Sakura had healed her cracked ribs, using medical jutsu. Everyone else was winded but unharmed. He saw Kronos approach, carrying a heavily wounded Terra. He nodded and began to walk to the hospital. The astounded and silent crowd made a path for him. He barely made it past them before he crumpled. As Tsunade rushed to him, she was astounded to see that wounds had appeared and were bleeding profusely. Checking his pulse, she found it beating faintly. "Sakura, run to the hospital and tell them that we need 4 gurneys as soon as we get there. Shizen, Irika, help me carry them." The Hokage lifted Bee as she would need to study his health as they rushed to the hospital. Irika carried Naruto and Shizen carried Hinata, while Kronos carried Terra, who was stable but still critical as Kronos pumped healing chakra into her brother. A black dragon smashed a rock into dust in anger, in a cave many, many miles away. He proceeded to roar so loudly, an avalanche was started on top of the mountain he was in. "I am sorry, Master, but the human has defeated the squad I sent after him." The dragon bowed before the sealed cavern that stood in front of him. A deep breath was taken in from the inside of the cavern. "Do not worry, my apprentice. Soon I will break free from this seal, and I will show him that no matter how strong he is." A dragon's head that was twice the size of Kyuubi's head appeared and had a sinister smile on his face. There is always darkness inside every single being. List of jutsus in this chapter. Jinchuriki Art, Ascendant Dragon no Jutsu. This jutsu transforms the caster into a dragonid. Bee is able to tap into draconic abilities while in this form but only if he is using Gondor's chakra. Metal Wing no Jutsu, a jutsu that turns the caster's wings, should they have them due to a previous jutsu, into metal and causes the caster to begin to fly at near Mach speeds. One attack is able to cause minimal damage, but due to the speed that the wielder will be traveling at, this allows for multiple strikes, sometimes causing instant KOs. Dragon Art, Mega Flare no Jutsu, another dragon ability. The caster unleashes a beam of energy so powerful, Kyuubi would be moderately damaged if hit directly. Beep beep beep. Naruto slowly rose from unconsciousness to see a white ceiling with small speckles on it. Recognizing the ceiling type, he wondered how he had gotten into the hospital. The last thing he remembered was seeing he attempted to bolt upright to run to the window. But he couldn't move. Looking down, he found that he was so completely covered with bandages that he reminded himself of a mummy, or something that he read in one of the books he checked out of the library. Feeling some weight on his left side, he glanced over to see Irika, Tuchi and Ayam. Irika was asleep in the chair next to the bed he was in with his head resting on his arms and was leaning on the bed, while Ayam slept on a bed to his left. Tuchi was standing next to the heart monitor. Looking around him, he could see Hinata in a similar state across from him, and Bee was to his right, but he was surrounded by monitors and had numerous tubes connecting to him. a man with emerald green hair and jade emerald eyes sitting up and reading a book titled Power, the Strength and the Weakness. He sat in the bed opposite of B's bed. Kronos was standing over B and seemed to be applying a cream to his forehead. As to Hayashi, Niji, Hanabi, and Sakura, he assumed that they had to go back to their duties. Kronos heard his stirring and quickly crossed the room to him. She gently pushed him back into the bed. Don't. You'll just irritate the burns more. Burns? Naruto questioned. When you and Hinata were admitted, you both were suffering from severe chakra burns and second to third degree burns on your bodies, hence the heavy bandages on you. But Kyuubi's healing can help you. Kronos finished. Somehow you and Hinata tapped into the chakra of Zekrom, the dragon of demonic and angelic electricity, and Res Hiram, the dragon of angelic and demonic flames respectively. These chakras are a whole other level to Kyuubi's powers and he can't heal or protect you from the chakra if you call on it untrained. B. She motioned to the comatose sensei. Can spend maybe 5 minutes using the chakra of Kyurem, the dragon of demonic and angelic ice, before it begins to harm him. What she says is true about me not being able to heal you. Your internal stuff are currently normal, but you are going to be stuck here for a while. As to everything else, I believe she is telling the truth, but only B can confirm what she said. Kyuubi piped up as the blue dragon finished speaking. Kronos went on to check on Hinata before settling down on a chair near the doorway. Naruto managed to shift enough to awaken Irika. Naruto, the scarred Chunin spoke. How are you feeling? Naruto gave a small grin. I feel like a charred log. Irika laughed. Considering how you looked after the battle, I can agree with that statement. Not to mention you were out for at least a day. Irika proceeded to promise to take Naruto out for Ichiraku's so that they could trade stories before leaving to report to Tsunade. But unfortunately, Tucci and Iam delivered bad news. When they were captured, the dragons had landed on the ramen stand, effectively collapsing the restaurant. They didn't have the money at the moment to rebuild, but assured him that they would inform him the moment it reopened. Naruto was saddened to hear the news, but offered his services to helping rebuild the stand before they left. Hinata had awakened and was told the same thing that Kronos had told Naruto, minus the mentioning of Kyuubi. The injured party rested until around noon, when Tsunade came in looking like she was ready to rip someone a new one. Hey Granny, what's got you this pissed off? A curious and seriously bored Naruto inquired. He was already planning some serious pranks to pull on the NBU. Tsunade pulled out a sake bottle and a glass out from thin air, and proceeded to pour herself a drink. The civilian council is biting my ass to banish or cage you two. Danzo is hounding me to allow him access to you, Hinata, and B. Sasuke has complained to the civilian council to get B to train him, and not to mention that at least half the village is looking for a scrap goat for the whole incident, and by the looks of things, they are blaming you and Hinata. Downing the glass, she put it aside and proceeded to guzzle the bottle. After draining the bottle to about half, she said almost sarcastically but crushed that urge quickly, How are you feeling, Naruto? I'm bored and itchy. How about you, Hinata? I'm the same as Naruto-kun. Terra, do I even need to ask? Recovery is at 83%. When I reach 90%, I'll be able to leave. Terra reported. No, Terra, you won't. B's voice was muffled but very clear. The entire room turned, or in Naruto and Hinata's case, looked, to where B was. If you heard Tsunade-san, everyone in this room is being targeted by the village, which may lead to some complications, he said, implying that if they were separated, they couldn't help each other in case of emergency. The slug Sannin and the dragon siblings caught the implication. B continued, I had a clone wait before summoning back up to guard Naruto's apartment, and here. Tsunade, I have a request. The Godame snorted. You seem to have a lot of those. You know that I can't show favoritism. B gave a small grin. I know. This should be the last one for a time. Would you pull any NBU watching Kronos, Naruto, Terra and me off that watch? Why would I do that? The summoned dragons that are watching the hospital and the apartment are strong enough to go toe-to-toe with any ninja with few exceptions. Unless I summon the boss summons for the Draco contract, but that would cause complications. And that's too troublesome. Shikamaru and Shikaku both sneezed at the same time, causing the shogi match to go to a draw. Location, Naruto's apartment. B had 4 summons waiting for unfriendly visitors at the apartment. One summon was watching over the hospital, while one traveled back and forth for updates. However, the 2 in Naruto's apartment were seriously considering pounding the sensei into the ground for sticking them with guard duty for different reasons. The second someone tries to enter, I am going to send them across this village. The summon watching the door said. This summon was a dragon the size of a dog. Despite his small size, he was not to be trifled with. His front paws were covered like a boxer, and small spike protruded from tactical points on his body. A club-like tail swayed behind him as he kept an eye on the door. "Would you shut up already, Byasu? I'm going to kill you if you complain again, unless it has to do with watching this place or intruders," the second dragon said. Her body was purple, but much of it was hidden beneath the large orange armor. An emerald rested atop her head as she contemplated plans of revenge on B with her red eyes glaring out the window. Unless someone showed up soon, she was going to send Byasu back to the summon realm. Of course, he knew that she couldn't hurt him too badly, but that didn't mean she couldn't try. "Fine, Yari. I'm just bored out of my mind," Byasu apologized. She was so easy to annoy. A rattle in the door handle alerted him. "Someone's trying to get in," he warned the female behind him. "Doton, rock blast no jutsu," he muttered. A rock appeared in front of his hand as the door opened to show a drunk civilian, obviously intent on ruining the apartment, but oblivious to his surroundings. The civilian had barely enough time to look up before the rock slammed into his gut and sent him rocketing out into the air above the street. Byasu poked his head out to see the man getting up, looking confused after landing hard on the ground. He just snorted and pulled back inside before closing the door. B had ordered the guardians to use as minimal force as possible to keep people away from the apartment and to prevent casualties. The window opened as a small blue dragon glided into the room. "Any trouble?" she asked, knowing the answer. "One, but that was taken care of just before you showed up, Kuji," the bored dragon reported with a barely hidden tone in his voice. Kuji nodded, taking flight, and winged her way out the window. Byasu sighed and, unknowingly, mimicked Yari in planning revenge on the dragon summoner. As Kuji darted between shadows on her way to the hospital, she mulled over their contract holder, Kaido aka B. He was a curious man. The Draco contract belonged to the Uzumaki clan. But the creator of the clan was the first, and, for a time, only summoner of the dragons. He was not a nice man. He made Gato look like a saint. When the first summoner died, the dragons thought that all of their summoners were going to be as cruel as the first. But B was completely different. He was kind, summoned them if he felt that their skills were needed, and if he kept them there long, even fed them or at least offered to feed them. Some were distrustful of him, but most were won over when he managed to stay atop Rayquaza for almost a week. Rayquaza was pissed off to no end, but B made it up to him by buying loads of Pocky, which the Serpentine Dragon was completely addicted to after that. Noticing that a couple of Chunin were looking at the ground, she assumed that they were tracking her. Kuji turned and slipped almost unseen into the shadows of an alley. She quickly made her way to the roof and continued her way to the hospital. Sneaking into a ventilation shaft, she navigated the maze of ducts before finding the last of the guardians the clone had summoned. He was a small dragon, yet he was one of the most elder dragons in the summoning contract. His coloring was primarily green, but he had a blue mane and blue fur along his back. A metal mask covered his face as he kept watch. "Any trouble, Xiaolong?" Kuji asked. Xiaolong barely shook his head. "None, Tsunade-sama is leaving to pull the ANBU, watching all of them." Kuji nodded and felt a tug on her chakra. The tug vanished, and she summoned from a scroll a bunch of letters to give to B. Sorting through them, she quietly separated the fan mail from the other mail. She glanced at the writing on the letters and deemed that they were good. Coming upon the last two, she froze. B mentioned to Tsunade that Naruto needed a person to act as a key to him, hence Hinata's training. The reason was because of how powerful the chakra of the Biju was when used in the Jinchuriki style. Many of the chakras were used with so much evil intent in the past that the feeling was embedded into the chakra, hence the rages that Naruto and Gaara went on. While B had done so only once, he tried to make a key in order to make sure that he could not release the seal. The person had been his girlfriend, but when he told her about Gondra and asked her to be the one to be able to pull him back, she hadn't responded. B, who was deeply saddened by the lack of response, took the hint and left the next morning. As a result, he all but cut off contact with her, and after that he was pulled into the QB fiasco. As Darkrai began to sweat, the two letters that she held were from Yuna, his, at least in his eyes, ex-girlfriend. In a distant location, a lone figure slumbered as the morning sun's light clambered quietly into the cabin. Feeling the warmth that signified the time to wake up, the sleeping beauty rose out of her bed and stretched, revealing a rather toned stomach underneath the pajamas. She stood and made her way to the bathroom to shower and dress herself. Stripping off the warm pajamas, she stepped into the shower and let the warm water cascade over her. Stepping forward slightly, she brought her brownish-gray hair, which she wore down to her waist, under the shower head and proceeded to wash her hair. After 10 or so minutes, she stepped out of the warm shower and into the bedroom with nothing but a towel to cover her generous curves. She pulled on her usual outfit, a white vest with a skeletal-looking dragon holding the front together, to get a better idea of what it looks like. Look up Yuna from Final Fantasy X2, a pair of short jean shorts, and a blue and white half-skirt that flowed down to just above her ankle. The woman almost went to grab her pistols, before she remembered where they actually were. Tears threatened to leak down her now sad face. Or Kaido, as she did not know of his new name, had been given them by her as a gift on their 4th date. The pistols, honor and loyalty, were heirlooms from the original wielder. Her ancestor Yunalesca and Yuna had given them to him because he represented these qualities. She felt ashamed though. Kaido went into a rage when he witnessed a group of girls between the ages of 6 to 18 being raped, and she was one of the 3 people to stop him from rampaging. Afterwards, he erased the memory of that happening from the victim's memories. That night, he told her about Gondra and asked if she would be the one able to control and subdue him should he ever go berserk again. She had said that she needed some time to think about it, but it came out in a way that saddened him. To be honest, she was terrified to find out that he was a Jinchuriki, and not to mention that he wanted her to be able to control him. The next morning, she awoke to find that her bed was empty and devoid of his warmth. Talking to Isamu, their pilot, he said that Kaido had disembarked around 3 hours before she woke up. She never got to tell him her answer, and she now wanted to say it to him, face to face. A single tear landed on the cabinet top, causing a small seal to poof into existence under the landing. Startled, she bit her thumb and swiped some blood onto it. A scroll popped up, and after she unrolled it said, "To my love, I understand that this is a lot to take in. I don't know how long it will take for you to make your decision, but this song should tell you about how I feel. Kaido Ryuga." Seeing another seal, this time being a sound seal, she channeled chakra into it, and heard Kaido singing with some shadow clones as backup singers. These things, and show the backup singers. She caught the meaning of the song as her heart began to race faster and faster. Finally Yuna could not stand it anymore. She rushed out of the bedroom and raced along the corridors to reach the bridge where Isamu was guiding the ship and said, "Can you lock on to the letters I sent?" Isamu looked at her curiously. "Yeah, why?" "Head to them," she demanded, clutching the area in front of her heart as if it was going to leap out of her chest. "I need to tell him." 2 days later, B stretched and sighed. The entire group was just discharged from the hospital, and he had just sent Xiaolong, Byusu, and Yari back to the summon realm. Kuji was watching over the apartment now. She gave him the letters from Yuna before flying to the other side of the room in fear that he would be angered by the letters. B just stored them and said that he would read them later. He could already see signs of tensions in the civilians walking by. The glares that they were sending their way were not going to make Hinata's life any easier. Glancing at said student, he was not surprised to see sadness and nervousness. The heiress was about ready to tear up when B grabbed her cheeks and stretched them to make a funny face. She was made to look into his eyes as he said, "No sad faces, okay? And don't worry, they can only glare at the moment. Be comforted." Then he broke out laughing. "One rule with my training, you should only cry when you're happy or if you have a good solid reason to be sad. And one thing is almost guaranteed when you are with me." "Ano, what's that?" Hinata asked as best as she could with stretched cheeks. B let go and smiled a foxy smile. "Your training is going to be full of laughter." An ANBU shun shined next to the group. "B-san, the council requests your presence immediately." "All right," B waved him off. As the ANBU shun shined away, B finished his sentence. "I'll be there in a few hours." Naruto looked at the sensei. Didn't he say immediately?" "First thing you need to know about me. I don't listen to authority figures or councils unless I'm in it. Second thing, if it is important, they'll make room for me," B stated. "Now training time." An evil grin grew on his face. Naruto and Hinata shivered. Approximately 2.5 hours later, B strolled nonchalantly into the council meeting room. Looking at the angry civilian council, he nodded to the shinobi part of the council. He greeted them and proceeded to ignore the civilian council as he greeted the individual heads. Kohara cleared her throat. "B Ryuga, or should we call you Kaido Ryuga? Kaido was given to me by the Shindantu. Only members of that clan can call me that," B replied coldly after sitting in the sole chair in front of the council. Hamura made the mistake of saying, "And what if we were of the clan?" What happened next startled everyone in the room. B roared in laughter and even fell out of his seat clutching his stomach. He continued laughing for several minutes, as he was being so loud that none of them could get him to shut up. Then B suddenly sat straight up and said with an icy voice, "Don't bullshit me." The civilian council about pissed themselves while the shinobi council were sweating up a storm. The Shindantu is a clan made up entirely of dragons, at least until I joined. Some Inuzuka inquired carefully. "What do you mean, at least until you joined?" My two companions, Terra Firma Ryuga and Kronos Ryuga, were sealed inside of me when I was about a day old. Being that they are members of the clan, I was forced to join in order to represent them. I later unsealed them and became who I am today. As such, I am the sole human in the clan. He left it at that, knowing that Tsunade would fill in the shinobi clans later. Sakari Haruno stood up and began. We have gotten complaints from Sasuke Uchiha that he asked you to train him and that you refused. He is. I don't care if he is the last of his clan, or if he is supposed to save the world. Bier quoted the last part. I am not training him. Another councilman piped up. Pray tell why. Is he a Jinchuriki? There was an chorus of no's. Is he related to me in any way? Another chorus of no's sounded. And there you go. Be finished. I promised Yandame that I would take Naruto under my wing to train in the Jinchuriki arts. The training requires a second person and Hinata Hyuga happens to fit the requirements. Then why not teach Sasuke a jutsu or two? Sakari demanded. 2 words, clan jutsu. Be counted off. That, and he looks like everything in his life has been handed to him. I'm willing to bet that he doesn't know the 5 things about gaining experience, and the percentages of the 5 things. Sakari smiled sweetly. Then why don't you ask him? Nay, too troublesome. Shikaku broke out laughing before calming down. An Anbu brought Sasuke in at this time. The council wants me to ask you, what the 5 things about gaining experience, and what are the amounts? Why should I care? I'm an elite. Sasuke arrogantly said. B just shook his head before facing the council. See what I mean? Hayashi stood. I believe that this meeting is done, but before we leave, B the dragon summoner turned his head his way. What is the answer? Hayashi stared at the spot where the shadow clone had dispersed, and had to smile, which was quickly quashed. B just had that ability to leave you with a smile on your face. Now that he thought of it, so did Naruto. Sakari screamed angrily, what the hell did that song mean? What was the point? It should be rather obvious. Chuza replied through gritted teeth. Sakari nearly screamed again as Hamura said. Sakari, that is quite enough. He turned to the shinobi half of the council. Would you please tell us what he meant? Remember one of his statements, he looks like everything in his life has been handed to him? Hayashi answered. Seeing nods, he continued. According to B, the 5 things about gaining experience are that it takes 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% willpower, 5% pleasure, and 50% pain to get any. I'd elaborate further, but I have clan matters to attend to. With that, he took his leave. Danzo sighed. Shikaku, do you agree with B's idea? Shikaku yawned. Actually yes, logically that idea can relate to everything in the world. But it's too troublesome to think about. That man, Shibi spoke up. The rest of the council turned to him. The Aburame spoke very little, but when he did others took it with a grain of salt. He has hidden depths. Even his chakra seemed infinite. Seemed? Koharu asked. His chakra levels are high, Shibi said. If the amount of chakra in that clone was anything to go by, his levels are about as high as Nibi. B has been training with dragons for most his life. What do you expect? About 1.5 hours before B's meeting, Kakashi was walking down the street, reading his newest Ika book, much to the discomfort of the female population that was walking by. Naruto mentally groaned from his hiding spot atop a nearby building. B said that this was to test his endurance and evasive skills while he worked with Hinata on tapping into Leilani's chakra. When he asked why she was not doing the same thing, he stated that she would be doing a similar task later and proceeded to boot him out of the training ground. Naruto's task was simple in writing, but horribly hard in real life. He had to steal Kakashi's newest Ika book and keep it away from him for about 2 hours and then head into training ground 44 and look for Kronos. Again, simple on paper, not in real life. B also said that he had to keep ahead of him using only Kagebushin, Kawarini, and Henge. Naruto watched the Jonin walk down the street as the makings of a plan came into fruition in his mind. With B and Hinata, Hinata lowered her mesh shirt and watched her sensei. He had requested to be able to see the seal and caused her to get flustered and faint. She woke up after being doused with a low-level Swait Unjutsu as B explained that he just needed to see her stomach while she gathered chakra, as all of the seals that contained Biju appeared there. Now the sensei was in a meditative position with his eyes closed, clearly thinking hard about the seal. B opened his mismatched eyes and gave a smile. Well, I don't have to worry about your seal. Huh! Hinata exclaimed. B stood. The person that sealed Leilani used a seal that would begin to feed Leilani's chakra into your chakra coils. B pulled out a watch. Which will happen in 3. Ano 3 what? 2. Sensei, will you answer me? 1 and now. Hinata immediately felt her chakra coils begin to expand at a speed that was very uncomfortable. She almost thought her period had come on, and she noticed that her chakra levels were beginning to rise steadily as well. The entire process took about 5 minutes to complete. Afterwards, B told her, "Now your training for now is to relearn all of your basic jutsus and chakra control exercises that you know." "Why?" Hinata inquired. "Do the tree walking exercise," B ordered gently. Hinata nodded, and sprinted towards the nearest tree while focusing the usual amount of chakra she needed to her feet. The second she stuck her foot to the tree, it held, but when she went to take another, she was blasted away from the trunk and skidded several yards. Looking over at B, he smiled and simply said, "Stick with that control exercise for now. I'll be back in a few hours." Flipping through hand seals, he slapped his hand into the ground and muttered, "Summoning jutsu." There was a poof of smoke and a dragon about half Chronos' size could be seen underneath B. He appeared to be made up entirely of diamonds. "This is Hyozen. He'll keep an eye on you while I'm gone." B proceeded to shunch into an unknown destination. Hinata looked at Hyozen, who blinked once and proceeded to get comfortable on the ground, knowing that this was going to take a while. With Naruto proceeded to implement Operation Snag Smutty Book. The plan was to use a clone dressed up in his sexy jutsu and a pink kimono to bump into the one-eyed sensei and cause them both to fall over, allowing the original to steal the book and run like Kyuubi was chasing him, or like Jiraiya being chased by women after being discovered gathering research. Said super pervert sneezed extremely hard, causing the women he was watching to tear down the fence separating them and give the perv a beating. Unfortunately, he missed the fact that Tsunade was in there as well. A high-pitched scream ripped through the mid-morning air. Kakashi happened to look in the direction of the scream, and Naruto wasn't one to curse luck. He dove at the book and proceeded to hightail it away, with a crazed-looking Kakashi throwing kunai and shuriken at him and yelling, "Naruto! Give me back my book!" With Hinata and Hyozen hearing a commotion, she looked at the fence surrounding the training field to see Naruto running at full tilt away from a pissed-off Kakashi. Involuntarily she thought, well, it's kinda nice to know that if father gets pissed at him, and Naruto will be able to escape his wrath. She shook her head to clear the cobwebs. Focus Hinata, you need to ask HMO out FFF first. You really need to work on that stutter. Lalani-sama, hey, drop the honorific. It makes me feel like my mother. The angel Kitsune protested. I mean, Naruto calls him crap, I can't tell her. Ano, who is him? Asked Naruto. He'll most likely tell you, but whatever you do, stick by him, Lalani advised. Hinata nodded and went back to work on the tree climbing exercise. Present time, 30 minutes after the meeting, Naruto was on his last legs. Kakashi was keeping to his trail like a male dog tracking a female in heat. It was very troublesome. Creating 20 clones, he made half of them transform into the book while the others grabbed the books and separated into the wind. Kakashi was seriously considering pulling out his ninja dogs at this point. Naruto was only using 3 E-rank jutsus to stay ahead of him, though he was barely pulling it off at this point. He summoned Pakken. Eh? Kakashi, what's up? The pug asked. My student just stole my book. I need help tracking him. I've told you many times to stop reading those books in public. The Nindog froze. Damn, that is going to be a problem. What? He made clones. There are 11 different trails. Even then, I am barely keeping track of them over all of the other smells here. Pakken reported. Someone is making a mistake though. With Naruto hopping over the fence surrounding Training Ground 44, Naruto looked back to see that he had lost Kakashi. Hearing a low growl, Naruto turned to see a very large tiger stalking towards him. Noticing the beast and the background behind it, the blonde wonder screamed, I'm going to kill him. B sneezed from his vantage point on top of the fourth's head on the Hokage monument. Hey Gondra, maybe I should have told him that Training Ground 44 is the forest of death. Both of them looked at each other, as they both said nah. B sniffed the air. The dragon within him asked, What do you smell? There are storms brewing. The question is, are they storms of rain or storms of tidings? A feminine voice came from behind him. Both. B continued to watch the village as the female approached him from behind. It only took, 3 years? 4, you left just before Halloween. Yuna answered. I found your note 2 days ago. I see. How's Isamu? Yuna blinked rapidly to prevent the tears from falling down her lightly sun-kissed face. He's doing well. He misses you and wished to see the last of his family since we were in the area. They both stood in the late morning sun, gazing out over the city. In a way, you could see 2 completely different worlds by them just standing there. B was the world that was torn up, wounded, scarred and filled with darkness everywhere. Yuna was just the opposite. She was the world that was pure, filled with light, and whole. After watching a Jonin team chase Tora the demon cat across the streets, Yuna finally broke down. You hate me, don't you? He winced and let out a bark of laughter before moving behind her and enveloping her in a gentle hug. No, I don't hate you. Seeing her begin to speak, he held a finger to her mouth. Sure, let me speak. I don't hate you. When you didn't answer me, two thoughts ran through my head. One was that you may hate me for trying to get close to you and that you may see me as Gondra incarnate and break up with me. The other thought was that you didn't care that he was there, and that you would accept. But I, hush, Tsukikita, Yuna blushed at the use of his nickname for her. And a third thought ran through my head as well. Gondra actually suggested it, and that was to leave you to gather your thoughts. According to him, I overloaded you with a lot of new information and it was too much for you to handle. So, following the third train of thought, I left to let you gather them and to start my way back to here. I sealed the note and made it so that your tears would activate it. The dragon summoner paused. I really should have made a different type of release for that. Yuna let out a small giggle, but by releasing the fragile grip she had on her feelings she began to cry. She turned and began to cry into B's chest, gripping the back of his vest very tightly as the restrained tears of 4 years of crying were unleashed. B, not exactly knowing what to do, began to rub his hand up and down her back to comfort her as sobs racked her body. Her legs gave out, bringing the pair down to the ground. Reacting from years of honed reflexes, B twisted her body so that when she landed, her butt would land on his legs. Yuna just continued to cry, unaware of her surroundings. Gondra, on the other hand, was completely aware and filed the knowledge away for if he ended up in a similar position to B's. After a few minutes she recomposed herself and turned to face the city, yet again. So, how is it here? B snorted. For who, Jinchuriki or non-Jinchuriki? Yuna pulled a pained face. It's that bad, huh? Oh, you don't even know the half of it. Now, B said as he stood, pulling Yuna onto her feet. Would you like to meet my students? Yuna gave him a sunny smile. Only if you treat me to dinner at the next festival, Rijinji. B gave a heavy sigh. Fine, I suppose I can fit it into my busy schedule of training the gakis and pissing off councils. That tells me what you've been up to. Yuna chirped. You don't even know the half of it, so fill me in. Yuna challenged as he led the young lady to where Hinata was training. Naruto was, to say the least, not happy. After entering the forest, he was chased by about 5, maybe 6 tigers, at least 2 giant centipedes, and at least a dozen snakes that were half Manda's size. Then he found Kronos, who was reading a book approximately half a mile from where he lost the first tiger. Kronos just looked at him, and seeing that he was mad stated, You know, you should have remembered that this training ground was the forest of death. I know. Naruto grumbled. Now, it's time for the evaluation of your stealth and evasion. Kronos began. Well, you kept ahead of Kakashi using academy-level jutsus, showing that Konoha needs to improve some of their sensory skills. And seeing as you got here, the Sapphire Dragon looked up. About 10-15 minutes after the 2-hour mark, you avoided the animals pretty well, though they got a decent amount of your jumpsuit during then. All in all, your stealth and evasion is low A rank, high B rank. Is that good? Naruto asked tentatively. Kronos shrugged. It's not dragon level, but it is pretty high. She thumbed a page over. If I remember correctly, you managed to avoid ANBU agents before you left the academy. So, your stealth has dropped, but we'll get it back up. She stiffened, and her face got a soft smile. We're going to where Hinata's at. B has someone to introduce to you too. The dragon proceeded to guide Naruto out of the forest, showing him some skills at sensing his surroundings and avoiding the wildlife. After leaving the training field, they began to walk along the fence with Kronos along the village side and Naruto was by the fence. Hey Naruto? Yeah, what's up? I don't mean to pressure you, but you should tell Hinata about your tenant. She held up her hand as he began to protest. Naruto, have you told anyone about him? Naruto grew somber. No, I'm too afraid of the possibility that they will leave you to the darkness you left. Kronos chuckled at his dumbstruck expression. B had the same thought before he told his girlfriend. The thing is, Naruto, is that you can either have your friends find out from another source, or you can tell them. And that just proves that if they leave, they weren't truly your friends, and if they stay they don't care that he is there. They see you for you and him for him and are true friends. Naruto gave a dry laugh. You know something. The furball has been saying the same thing for the past few days. Hey, I heard that. Don't forget that it was me that told you who that girl was and what gender Haku was. Kyubi bellowed at his host. Hey, I knew that Haku was a boy. he just had very feminine facial features. The other part one can't deny, the blonde shinobi replied sheepishly. Naruto had managed to finally break the genjutsu that was still on the multi-tailed kitsune, and the fox had apologized profusely, even bowing to him. After clearing the air, the two became fast friends. Some of his latest pranks were Kyuubi's ideas. Konoha was completely unaware that the king of the kitsunes was tutoring the Jinchuriki in the art of pranks. The fur ball has a point. And another thing, your jutsu training can't progress from here unless you can tell her, Kronos added as they entered the training field. She giggled at his facial expression. Hey, it's true. But at least your taijutsu will be brought up to par. Hyozen looked up and nodded at the heiress of time before poofing back to the summon realm. Hinata was about 75% of the way up the tree and kept going before her control faltered. Swinging quickly, she sliced the bark at the highest point before flipping backwards and landing on Naruto by pure accident. Squeals of surprise and yelps of pain ran through the air as the two genin landed in a heap. Hinata was straddling Naruto's back while the blonde was face first on the ground. Hinata saw Naruto's back and leapt about 5 feet behind him with a crimson blush and a torrent of gomen s emerging from her mouth. Naruto just sat up and grinned. Hey, Hinata, it's fine. I should have been paying better attention. Hinata just closed her mouth before another gomen could escape and nodded. Naruto looked over at the gate to see Bee and Yuna walk into the training ground. Yuna was extremely pissed off at the village and was extremely tempted to let loose her summons on the city. Bee managed to calm her, but only after telling her some of Naruto's dark secrets about his parentage, and how Bee and Naruto were going to get revenge on them in the form of giving them near-heart attacks as long as Naruto was along with it. Yuna gave a sinister smile that made Bee have to get her to swear that she wouldn't rile up the council. She swore while keeping an eerie smile on her face. Bee just shivered at the darker side of his girlfriend. She had absolutely no problem with giving the council grief on their treatment of the young Jinchuriki. Little did he know, Kronos had filled Yuna in on Hinata's treatment as well from the Hyuga clan, and she had plans to visit the Hyuga council's showers to leave some very nasty surprises for the wrinkly bastards. Bee had a heart of gold, but he really needed to let loose sometimes. Naruto. How did it go? Bee called nonchalantly. Fine. I nearly lost some limbs courtesy of the animals in the forest, Naruto said. Kakashi landed at the gates with a crazed look in his eye. Oh Naruto, please give me back my book, and I'll make your torture less painful. The copy ninja cooed with a sickly sweet voice. He had tunnel vision by now, so he didn't see Yuna storm over and kick the family jewels so hard that he let out a very high-pitched scream that cracked a nearby window before passing out. Yuna just walked away as Bee poked him with a stick to see if he was still alive. Kronos stealthily took the Ika book and slipped it into her pocket for future reading. Kakashi could buy another copy. Naruto and Hinata looked at the woman with dumbfounded expressions. Bee quickly made introductions. Naruto, Hinata, this is my girlfriend Yuna. Yuna, these are my students, Naruto and Hinata. Yuna gave them a gentle smile. It's a pleasure to meet you both. Hinata gave a bow. It's nice to meet you too. Okay, first impression of Hinata. This girl needs some serious confidence help and to clear up the stutter, Yuna thought. Hiya Yuna-chan. Naruto gave her a sunny smile. We better be making him lose that jumpsuit or there will be hell to pay. I think I'm losing my eyesight just looking at him. In case you didn't know, he is actually quite stealthy in that jumpsuit. Bee's voice entered her conscious. He managed to avoid ANBU after pulling a prank on them. Yuna's eyebrows jumped up in surprise. Between the three of them, Bee, Isamu and herself, they could take out Orochimaru using only minimal stealth techniques. They actually pulled it off by replacing all of the Snake Senin's little boy porn with straight porn. The howls of fury later had them rolling on the floor laughing their asses off. During her recollection, she saw Bee teach the genin the shadow dance. It wasn't as complicated as most dances. All one had to was bob, weave, duck and wriggle in the shadows. Hinata even had her Byakugan active and couldn't track him. Bee popped up in front of Yuna and gave her a peck on the cheek before vanishing into the shadows. Kronos and Yuna got a good laugh at the game of whack-a-mole, or in this case, try and hit Bee with kunai and shuriken while he messes around, which lasted for an hour or so. Then it turned into Bee sending Sanban into their limbs if they were leaving a part of them in the open. Amazingly, within 30 minutes, they were pulling it off. Alright, now it's time for a Bee broke off as a squad of ANBU appeared. Bee saw the kanji 4 root on their masks and steeled himself. Bee Ryuga? Depends. Danzo-sama wishes to extend an invitation to you to join us. Before the agent could finish, Bee spat at him. He can go and fuck Orochimaru for all I care. I'm not doing it. Very well, you leave me no choice. The ANBU motioned the squad to attack. Bee? Yuna called. May I please? B saw the look in her eyes and nodded very fast. She gave the squad a smile that promised a very painful death. She bit her thumb and flipped through hand seals before slamming her hand into the ground and snarling summoning jutsu. There was an explosion of smoke, and Yuna could be seen standing next to her summon, who made the root A and B shit themselves. Hinata's first impression of the summon was a humanoid wolf. He had long claws on both his head and feet. Orange hair rippled down his back as he reared back his head and let loose a mighty roar that reminded B of some of the dragons. He wore fiery orange shorts and was bare-chested, showing his ripped muscles. Two pitched black ram-like horns arched over his back as he hunched back down and glared at the squad. Yuna-san, we felt your rage. The others will be displeased that they missed this chance to punish those who made you angry. The demonic-like summon said. His voice sounded like hissing coals. Oh, they'll get their chance. Yuna pulled out the twin pistols that B carried. They were rightfully hers and he felt wrong using them. Ifrit, destroy that squad but leave one alive. With pleasure, Ifrit growled. A seal appeared below the squad as the summon roared Katan, Hellfire. He leapt into the air as red chakra formed around his hands. He crossed his hands and released twin globes of energy at the squad. One of them tried to set up a defensive Suiton jutsu but ended up screaming in pain as chakra was forcibly pulled out of his body and into the seal below them. The balls of energy released a pillar of flame that lifted them into the air and burned them. Ifrit gathered more red chakra in front of his mouth and launched it at the airborne root agents. As he landed, Ifrit grabbed at the earth and catapulted the chunk of earth he ripped out at the sphere. Screams echoed out over the city as all of the agents but one were disintegrated. The agent slammed into the ground with a loud crunch. Yuna walked up to him and said in a very dark voice, "Tell me your secrets." The agent bit down on the pill he placed in his mouth. Ifrit came up and placed a claw on him and superheated his blood enough to destroy the poison and the seal on his tongue. Ifrit, bring him with you and see what you can learn. Yuna ordered. Your wish is his torture. With that, the summon left with the screaming agent. Yuna turned around to see the genin staring at her. What? Did he mess up my hair? Naruto began jumping up and down. That was awesome. Can you teach me that? Nope. Ifrit is a member of the Aeon summoning contract. Yuna explained. He is fully in tune with the element of fire. Hence why he can pull that off without seals. B nodded. And with some persuasion, Hinata might be able to summon them. Yuna shot him a look. It's a big might though. Now, that jutsu I was going to teach you. Sasuke entered his apartment after waiting for Kakashi for most of the morning. After turning to close the door, he heard a voice. Hello Sasuke. Previously on Evolution, Angel and Demon, Sasuke entered his apartment after waiting for Kakashi for most of the morning. After turning to close the door, he heard a voice. Hello Sasuke. Sasuke whipped around after hearing the voice only to see the dark shadows of his apartment. Flicking on the lights, no one showed themselves. So this is how far my family has fallen, eh? The voice seemed to emanate from everywhere. So what Fugaku said was true, they really forgot all about me, eh? Who are you and why are you here? Sasuke demanded as he whipped out a kunai and activated his Sharingan. You are obviously an Uchiha, but how did I survive the massacre? The voice responded. Well, that is a tale to tell. But I really should introduce myself, shouldn't I? A figure appeared in the kitchen doorway as a man that looked about 26 years old with obsidian black eyes and dark gray hair streaked with red and gold. My name is Isamu Uchiha, wielder of the Penta-Elemental Suit no Jutsu. Insert line here. The jutsu I'm about to teach you will link you to your respective dragon chakras, and to your Biju's chakra be added separately through his mind link to them. Hinata needed to find out from Naruto, no one else. As you grow, the transformation will be affected as well. How so? A nervous Naruto asked. Simply put, if Hinata were to tap into Rishiram's chakra at this point, she would grow a tail and ridges would appear on her arms for where the wings would be. You would be growing a tail and wings on your back. It will change as you gain more experience and more strength. The dragon summoner explained. Hand seals are he went on to make the hand seals, a total of 101 hand seals. After Hinata and Naruto did them, they felt a tug on their chakra and little more. Now it's time for more stealth. But be added with a smile that rivaled Naruto's patented foxy smile. We are pulling pranks. The remainder of the day was spent pissing off most of the ANBU and some owners of establishments that refused service to Naruto. Of course, no one could prove that it was the demon group, as the idiotic villagers had dubbed them in their minds. There was no hard evidence. Tsunade was laughing her ass off when B reported what they had done and found out that they were planning to pull off a major prank that would cause everyone to sweat. But before they could pull off any more pranks, a large thunderstorm came in over the city and called off any activity that they had planned. At the moment, the group was waiting in the Hyuga clan mansion while B was talking to Hayashi and the Hyuga council in another room, and Yuna was off to the bathroom with B, Hayashi, and the Hyuga council. The council was currently firing questions off like a Gatling gun in World War II. B was just sitting there with a slight smile on his face, which was pissing off the majority of the council. One of the council, an elder lady named Izumi, quietly raised her hand for silence as the questions continued. Izumi was more than likely the only one in the room that understood what Hinata was going through with the council and Hayashi pushing her around. Hayashi was easing up on her, but the rest of the council was pushing even harder for him to brand her and have her married to a clan heir in another country. Izumi also allied with Hayashi on combining the main house with the branch house but couldn't do so openly. As the council quieted down, she asked in a light, airy voice, "B-san, while I am interested in your heritage and whatnot, I would like to know of your abilities with the Byakugan. I have heard in reports and in rumors that you said Sujian Byakugan when the dragons showed up and you transformed. I am aware that that is the second level for the Byakugan, but how did you manage to know about it and to unlock it? Wow, you are the third Hyuga I know of that doesn't have a pole stuffed up their ass, no offense." B stated. "None taken." She gave a small giggle. "May I ask who the other two are?" "Myself and Hinata," B answered simply. "The answer to your question is that my mother had copied scrolls pertaining to the Sujian before she left with her husband. As to unlocking it, it takes a certain level of a feeling to unlock it. I'm not going to tell you that though. You are a Hyuga. We demand that you tell us." One of the more arrogant council members ordered. "Fuck off, asshole." B shot back. "No one looked for my parents when they left, and no one came looking for me when she gave birth or when I received my first tenants." Hayashi winced slightly, going unnoticed by all except B and Izumi. "No one approached me my first time here in Konoha about my eyes, and now you want me to just tell you my secrets?" Yes? Wrong answer, motherfucker." With that, B shot him the bird. "Get out now, you spawn of a Horyuarke!" B was across the room in a flash, pinning the council member to the wall with a large number of kunai. One eye turned to look at Hayashi. "Any chance I can ask the rest of you to leave the room?" The Byakugan user hissed with rage. Hayashi nodded and led the rest of the council out of the room. Kronos looked up to see the group leaving. Raising an eyebrow, the heiress of time asked the Hyuga head. "One of them insulted his mother or father, correct?" Izumi spoke clearly. "His mother? Well, he'll be in a mental institution for the rest of his life." Kronos warned Hayashi. "He takes insults to his parents very personally. The last person that insulted his family was the daimyo of Lava Country. I've never heard of it." Izumi was confused. 3-2-1 Kronos thought. Izumi paled. "You mean he?" "Not exactly," Kronos said. "They always think that." "What did he do?" Hinata asked. "He annihilated the country's entire military branch, an army of almost 500 shinobi with 4 or 5 members being at Kage strength," Kronos explained. "The remnants scattered to the wind, most of them going to Kumo. He heavily regrets losing to that much anger, and no one blamed him, but he still remembers the pain he made." After about 10 minutes, B left the room and disappeared in a vortex of leaves. Peeking in, the council member was curled up in a ball in the corner saying over and over, "Mommy, make the bad dreams go away." He never left the institution after that. Hayashi allowed Hinata to spend the remainder of the time at Naruto's before they left for the trip. Yuna said that B had contacted someone to help them get there because the airship Isamu and Yuna came in on was low on fuel and wouldn't be able to make it all the way and would take some time to get there. Naruto and Hinata were now in Naruto's apartment when the storm actually started. Kronos gave them scrolls to read about the abilities of fire dragons and lightning dragons. Kronos left to retrieve some supplies. Yuna was tracking B, and they hadn't seen Terra since they left the hospital. Thunder rolled and Naruto was suddenly alone in the small dining room/kitchen. "Hinata?" Naruto asked, looking up to see that she was nowhere to be seen. Hearing no answer, he looked in his bathroom. No Hinata. More thunder rumbled and he suddenly heard whimpers of fear coming from his bedroom. He tiptoed in to see Hinata's form quivering under the blankets of his bed. "Hinata, you're scared of storms?" There was a mumbled hi. Naruto crawled onto his bed and hesitantly wrapped Hinata in a hug, slightly afraid that she would hit him and call him a pervert. The young Hyuga latched onto him like a leech, causing him to yelp in surprise. "She's terrified," he realized as her shivering began to shake even him. Feeling incredibly awkward, he pulled her up onto his lap and quietly sang part of a soft lullaby that he had heard from a movie. The owner of the store ran him out before he could finish watching it though. "Come, stop your crying, it will be all right, just take my hand, hold it tight. I will protect you from all around you. I will be here, don't you cry. For one so small, you seem so strong, my arms will hold you, keep you safe and warm. This bond between us can't be broken. I will be here, don't you cry. I know it's cheesy, but still it is a good song. Naruto just sang the same part over and over. Hinata was slowly beginning to stop shivering. At this point, Naruto realized that the others were trying to give him time to tell Hinata. Hinata, would you sit up please? He paused, scared out of his mind. I want to tell you something. Alright. Hinata slowly sat up with a slight blush. Naruto was really warm and she was very tempted to fall asleep. Hinata, what do you know about Kyuubi? The blonde asked. Well, mainly that Yandame K killed it and died doing it. Hinata answered, saying the mainstream story that Sandame had given the populace. You're slightly right. Hinata noticed that Naruto was growing sadder and quieter with each word. But Yandame couldn't kill it. Biju are mainly chakra and a little bit of intelligence. Hey, I resent that. Shut up. There is only one way to stop a Biju, you need to seal it. So, Yandame chose a newborn, someone born that day. Naruto was nearly crying at this point. Hinata, do you know when my birthday is and when Kyuubi attacked? I know, it's the 10th of October, next Thursday. With the Kyuubi attack, it was Hinata trailed off for a second as a tidal wave of realization washed over her. She had been following him from their second year in the academy. Everywhere he went, he received pointed glares and muttered insults. When the 10th rolled around, Naruto was nowhere to be seen. He would show up during the next week covered in bandages and barely able to stand, while more often than not being escorted by Sandame. On occasion, she would see Naruto being chased by a mob. She unfortunately assumed it was because of a prank he pulled. But now, looking back, she realized with horror and sadness, she was wrong, very wrong. I am the Jinchuriki of Kyuubi, the nine-tailed demon fox. Naruto finished, keeping his head down so that she wouldn't see his tears running down his face. Hinata just sat there, as everything sank into her brain. Mentally slapping herself, she looked down to see spots where Naruto's tears were hitting the blanket. And Naruto-kun, she said softly. Naruto didn't look up, he was afraid that she had a look of hatred on her face. While he didn't want to lose her, everyone else that entered their lives during the past few days had more or less said that she deserved to know, while not explaining why. He felt arms circling him and pulling him into a hug. His head was guided up to her shoulder, as she whispered into his ear. You can let it out, and Naruto-kun, please don't hold the sadness in. With those gentle words, the barrier was broken and Naruto let out all of the tears that he had held back. The tears of pain caused by the beatings and assassination attempts, the tears of loneliness from the lack of friendship before the academy, the tears of sadness from the lack of love in his life, the tears of happiness from the support of everyone that he was getting to know and did know. Naruto cried for several minutes, with Hinata gently rubbing his back making soothing sounds. She was mentally berating herself that she should have offered her friendship sooner, offered her support sooner. Naruto really needed it, and she was too shy. Now she figured that as he had told her his deepest secret, she should tell him hers, aside from the crush on him. Naruto, you're not the only one that has a biju in them. Hinata took a deep breath. The other night, during the fighting test, B-sensei found out that I carry Leilani, the nine-tailed angel fox. I'm the same as you. Naruto sat up and wiped the remaining tears. It's a hard life. He began as he told her of all the hardships they were going to face. Later that night, B quietly took a picture of the two slumbering forms. Naruto was fast asleep with Hinata using his shoulder as a pillow. Both wore a slight blush and Naruto looked more at peace than he did before when they camped out in the training field. Now B had blackmail for later. Hayashi actually found him in the middle of a training ground demolishing large boulders and several trees to take out his anger. Yuna didn't show up until after Hayashi left. By the time he was done, B had made a new obstacle course consisting of fallen trees and half-shattered boulders. Hayashi was working out an arranged marriage for Hinata with Naruto. Flashback no jutsu. You know that the council, both Hyuga and civilian, won't stand for this, right? More than likely, the Hyuga council will try to seal her and marry her off, more than likely to the Uchiha. B asked Hayashi after B had destroyed another dozen boulders. Yes, but this is the best way to save her and give her what she desperately wants, Hayashi argued. And even if they don't have children, she will be safe. B looked thoughtful. True. Here's an idea. I really want to piss the civilian council off, so do me a favor and write up a contract and sign it. Make a spot for her mother's signature and for Naruto's mother's signature. Hayashi looked confused. But they are both dead. Hitomi died after giving birth to Hanabi, and Kushina died the night of the Kyuubi attack. B's head flipped wildly around to see if anyone was listening. Seeing a rude member, B set up a small silence barrier of the highest grade before sending a shadow clone to snap her neck. He then turned to the Hyuga head. I lied when I said that I didn't come back after the QB attack. I came back about 3 times. One time was to see Naruto's progress during the Chunin exams, and another was to check on him when he was 3. The last. Flashback within a flashback no jutsu. Let me get this straight, you two want me to fake your deaths so that you can be with your children in the future? A 14-year-old B/Kaido asked to the 2 semi-pregnant women. They were sitting in Hitomi's personal garden. She had outfitted it with silencing seals and jutsus to warn her if anyone was coming. Kaido was dressed as an ANBU codenamed Dragon. The act was that he was the personal ANBU for Kushina during her pregnancy. His mask had 10 stars around it, so that Kushina, Minato, Hayashi, Hitomi, and Sandaime would be able to know that he wasn't the usual Dragon ANBU. The other ANBU recognized him, and could fetch him if needed. Hi, if what the reports that Minato is getting are true, Kyuubi is being hunted by someone. They may try and release it when I'm giving birth to Naruto, Kushina Uzumaki pointed out, and Hayashi and I have enemies in the Hyuga Council that will be trying to get rid of me. Hitomi added, we both want to see our children when we are older, and if things turn out like Kronos is saying they will, we would prefer it if you mentored them. Kaito rubbed his forehead as if massaging it. The only problems I am seeing is that this is going to take very precise timing to pull this off, and Hitomi-san, the mentioned woman nodded. You will more than likely be dying by the time I can pull you out. Kushina-san, I'm not too worried about. She's as stubborn as an ass and won't let herself die before I get to her. That's right, hey. The redhead objected. It's true and you know it. The redhead bowed her head in defeat. As much as I hate to say it, you'll need to keep this from everyone, including your husbands. Make sure that you are alone for at least 2 minutes before your death so that Kronos and I can pull you out. Kaido sighed. This is going to be a big pain in the ass. Time skip, night of the QB attack. Hitomi waited patiently in front of her garden, with Hizashi and several branch members standing guard over her. Kushina was lost somewhere during the fight and Kaido was nowhere to be found. She had felt Kronos and Terra flare their energy when fighting the Kitsune, being that she and certain others were exposed to their energy, and could feel it underneath the power of the QB. The only wild card was Kaido, but that's the way he wanted to be, unpredictable and hidden within the shadows. A single sakura petal floated down in front of the group. The coloring was a soft blue. That type of sakura blossom was thought to be extinct, at least until Kaido found them thriving very well at the Dragon Temple of the Ancestors. He kept a supply of the petals to use as signals, being that they were very unique and very subtle. Hitomi saw it, and told the guards that she was entering the garden and to not let anyone disturb her. Hizashi protested but was quickly silenced by a glare. Hitomi entered to see a blood-covered Kaido in the middle of healing an unconscious Kushina who was bleeding from several small cuts on her. How did it go? Kaido sounded grim as he responded. Kyuubi was under a genjutsu, a very powerful one. We managed to break most of it, but the remainder stayed because of what happened. What happened? When Uchiha Madara summoned him before the battle with Senju Hashirama, he slaughtered Kyuubi's family, and while Kyuubi was in full rage mode cast the genjutsu on him to bend him to his will. He finished the healing jutsu and popped a blood pill in Kushina's mouth. Minato told me to not engage Madara. Gondra is to be the hidden knife that takes him out. Where will you take her? Hitomi asked, concerned for her friend's well-being. The safest place that I know of where she can still train is the temple. It'll be a long trip, but within the circumstances, it's the best option that we have. He picked up the unconscious redhead in a piggyback before handing Hitomi a photo of a crying boy with blonde hair and whisker marks being held by a very happy Kushina with Minato in the background beaming upon the boy. I managed to take it before Madara showed up. Keep it, I have a copy for Kushina. I have the original. You're carrying her that way to feel her breasts, aren't you? The Hyuga female asked. Hey, I'm a hot-blooded guy. I'm no pervert like Jiraiya. Kaito protested. I'll admit it, she is hot, but not my age. Hitomi giggled at his expense. He began to gather chakra for a jump. I'll see you in a few days. He leapt up into the clouds to land on his airship and begin the trip east. Time skip, night of Hanabi's birth. Hitomi was resting in her hospital bed as she watched the doctor put the medicine into her fore. Kaido had smelled the poison immediately when it started and gave her a customized antidote that would fake all of the symptoms the poisoner would need to convince them that it was working. Kushina wanted very badly to come back, but Kaido pointed out that in order to pull off her death/disappearance, she couldn't be seen within the elemental nations, As the doctor left to let the last of the poison sink in, the window opened to let a light blue sakura petal float in. Kaido entered through the window as quietly as a shadow. He whispered into her ear. I'm going to put a poison in to knock you out and put you in a death-like coma. It will kick in as you speak to your family, so make it as fast as possible. Tell Hayashi to cremate your body. I have a contact that will put your body away from the others and I can extract you then. Nod once if you understand, and tap the railing twice if you accept. Hitomi followed his instructions. The poison was like ice slipping into her body. Flashback within a flashback. Hayashi was stunned beyond belief. His wife and Naruto's mother was alive and well, and Hayashi now ended up making a very big mistake when he made himself into the Hyuga image. Oh yeah, B pulled out a small note card. Hitomi said that she is disappointed and has given Kushina permission to kick you in the balls until you are almost sterile, and Kushina is pissed off that you and the other head stood by during Naruto's beginning years and is getting ready for a major ass-kicking when she gets back. Both wish that they could have paid the third their respects, but by now he knows that they are not dead. B sighed as he stowed the card and rubbed the back of his head. I'm going to have a talk with Hitomi-san about Leilani. I had absolutely no clue that Leilani was there. Hayashi shook his head to clear the cobwebs and started to laugh uproariously. Who came up with the idea? He asked between laughs. Hitomi, but it was Kushina who approached me about it. Hayashi shook his head as he calmed down. That sounds like her idea, and they have been both a pleasure and a pain in my ass since. B growled as Hayashi howled in another bout of laughter. All I know is that when they come back, Konoha is going to be shaken to the very core. Both children will be safe at the temple, Hayashi stated. Konoha is growing more and more dark, but even in darkness, there will be a light shining. Flashback. B just smiled at the pair of slumbering Jinchurikis as he pulled a blanket over them. He walked into the living room and crawled into his sleeping bag to cuddle with Yuna, who was already asleep by now. Sasuke was pissed off and confused. Isamu had revealed truths that, in Sasuke's opinion, should have stayed buried or plain ignored. Flashback no jutsu. I was banished because of the fact that when I turned 13, my Sharingan was not activated. Fugaku banished me and about a week later it did activate, Isamu explained as he sipped tea. As to the massacre, I was with Kaido, or B as you know him, and Yuna exploring a few ruins for treasure. Whatever now, Sasuke shrugged off. You will help me in killing. Nope, I will not help you with killing Itachi. Isamu flat out denied. Yes you will. It is our destiny to. Sasuke, he killed the Uchiha because they were going to revolt against the Sandaime. Isamu bellowed. He told me himself when we ran across him with Kisame. That's a lie. Isamu pinched his nose in frustration. Sasuke, there are forces in this world that even the Uchiha can't fight against and hope to win. The Sharingan is very useful, but there are people that know how to counter it and defeat the wielder. B-san is one of those people. Dragons like Kronos can even defeat it. When you need it most, your Sharingan and that curse mark are going to fail you. Flashback Kai. A black dragon pried a boulder away from the wall. Rismak had ordered that they clear the ruins of Sin, and it was slow going, due to the shadow dragon's physical weakness. The dragon looked at the wall he had exposed to see a part of a giant creature. He rushed off to Rismak to report that he had found it. Hinata was stressing out. It was the day before Naruto's birthday, and she hadn't gotten him a present. It has been a week since they told each other about the burdens that they had. The following morning, B began to teach them about the theoretical side of the Biju's power. Naruto had protested, but B said that he was saving the jutsu part for when they were at the temple. After that, B trained both of them in the taijutsu style that he knew as the Ryugaken. At night, Naruto and Hinata talked about their lives and chatted with each other's Biju. B noticed her stress as they were working on a chakra control exercise. They had a pile of 5-colored sand on their hand and were supposed to separate it into their 5 colors on their fingers. But Hinata's pile kept blowing up in her face. B pulled her aside. Okay, out with it. What is eating you? Huh? The young Hyuga heiress asked. You usually get at least 2 colors before it explodes on you. B crouched down to look at her eyes. So what's up? Hinata had cleared up her stuttering problem, but still had confidence issues. Ano, Naruto's birthday is tomorrow and I haven't gotten him anything. B sighed. Of course. Tell you what, take the rest of the day off to find something for him. I'll keep him busy. Tomorrow you have the day off from training anyways, so you have about 34 hours until the surprise Kronos, Terra and I have cooked up. Okay. Hinata considered getting Naruto Jutsu scrolls, but she didn't know what level his chakra control was at. That was out. She did consider some movies, but again didn't know what he had. By now it was mid-afternoon, and she was on the verge of giving up when she heard a woman's voice. "Hinata, what's wrong?" The Hyuga heiress turned to see her team leader, Kurenai, with a concerned look on her face. If that new sensei did something, the red-eyed Jonin growled. "No, B-sensei isn't a pervert." Hinata defended the odd sensei. "You see, Naruto's birthday is tomorrow and I haven't gotten anything for him." "Really?" Kurenai exclaimed. "But you always have a gift by now." Hinata had left Naruto a pair of goggles and his wallet Gamachan on his birthday after they started in the academy. He wore the goggles the next day he was at school, not covered in bandages. She dropped off small gifts usually, at times money and scrolls for jutsus, which his chakra control sucked so bad that he ended up putting them in a hidden spot in his apartment. Now that they shared their deepest demons, pun very much intended, she wanted to get something special for him. Yuna landed next to the duo. "What about jewelry? Maybe a necklace?" "Ah no, he already has a necklace." Hinata objected. Yuna smiled and gently shook her head. "It is his necklace, but he got it from beating Tsunade-san in a bet." "What was the bet?" Kurenai asked curiously. Naruto had a week to finish the third stage of learning the Rasengan. If he didn't, Gamachan would be very flat. If he won, he would get Tsunade-san's necklace and she would have to come back to be Hokage. Hinata and Kurenai's eyes bulged out. They got their Hokage because of a bet? But seriously, I would recommend jewelry for him. He has very little else in his life to have close to him. If you look hard, his most precious items are from people who have greatly affected his life, aside from B, Kronos, and me. His headband was Irika's. He taught him that others could see him for him. The necklace was Tsunade's. He learned that the Hokage has to make very hard decisions. You now carry the knowledge of his pain, and are able to relate to him, and ease the pain in his heart. Yuna placed a hand on her shoulder. Anything you get him will be very precious to him, be it a scroll or a sword or a copy of Ika Ika. Though, I would avoid the Ika Ika. Yuna added as an afterthought. Hinata nodded. Departing the company of the women, she wandered the marketplace. Pausing in front of the Jade Rose store, she looked into the storefront and saw it. Naruto woke up to the sun shining down on his face. Rubbing the sleep from his eyes, he looked around his apartment. To his complete surprise, his apartment was completely empty. Rising out of the very comfortable bed, he staggered over to his table. B had left a note. "Dear Naruto, be sure to pack today for the trip, we leave at 9 p.m. Hinata has some things to take care of, so don't look for her for now. Go do whatever you want, but be at the plateau behind the Hokage monument at 6 p.m. Be safe. If anyone gives you trouble, threaten to pull the worst prank of your prankster career on Konoha if they do and use the shadow dance to get away. Announce it in as big of a way as possible. The prank is doing nothing." Yuna suggested it. "Thank her. Be sure to talk to your fuzzball today, he mentioned he wanted to give you something. Anywho, have fun and be good. P.S. Don't pack ramen. We have some at the temple." Naruto sighed. "Hey everyone, it's my birthday," he said sadly, fully expecting a very brutal night. If only he knew. He settled into his meditative stance, and proceeded to enter his mind. Kyuubi's surroundings were no longer the same stinking sewer that it had been when they first met. Naruto had changed it to a forest similar to the one surrounding the village. Kyuubi had said to imagine something fitting for a kitsune after he let out some stress and proceeded to squish all of the cute fluffy animals Naruto had released into it. The scenery was now a forest similar to the forest of death without the deadly creatures. Kyuubi was immensely content in the scenery, though he complained that the seal he now had to wear as a collar really itched. When Naruto appeared, Kyuubi was lounging on a boulder, sunning himself. "Ah, Kit, haven't seen you in my neck of the woods for a while." A/N hee, forest joke, get it? Well, I have had training and haven't been in any life or death situations for a while, so yeah. Naruto climbed up next to the kitsune and scratched him behind the ears. The legendary Kyuubi no Kitsune, harbinger of destruction, was able to be beat by scratching the space between his ears. "You know, I'm willing to bet that Shikaku would pay very good money on how to beat you. Tell her Ogara about this and I'll torture you with perverted thoughts about Hinata for rest of your life." Kyuubi growled. "Now, B told you I had something for you, correct? Hi, hang on, I'll bring you to it." Kyuubi stood and walked deeper into the woods. After about 5 minutes of walking, Kyuubi arrived to the spot where he had his den. Naruto slipped off as Kyuubi stuck his head in to get something. Pulling his head out, Naruto spotted a large scroll with kitsunes running up and down the edges. The kitsune placed the scroll on the ground and pushed it towards the Uzumaki. "This is the kitsune's summoning contract. I want you to sign it." No one has signed this contract since your mother entrusted it to me. My mother had this? Naruto stammered. Hi. Many believe that the contract died when Whirlpool was destroyed, but your mother survived and gave it to me for safekeeping, seeing as I am the boss of the contract. Back up a minute, you knew my mother? Kyubi gave a sad nod. She carried me before Yondaime sealed me in you after Madara pulled me out. Your mother's name was Kushina Uzumaki. She was a very kind woman. She kicked my ass whenever I said something perverted, so she was very strong. Do you know if she survived the attack? Naruto asked quietly. Kyubi got in a thoughtful stance. To be honest, I don't know. I know I saw an ANB with a dragon mask with 10 stars on it near where she was laying before one of my tails hit. She may very well be alive. Did she love me? Kit, look at me. Naruto looked up to see Kyubi in his serious face. If there is one thing I know of, she loved you very deeply. Deeply enough that I know for a fact that if she was alive and found out how you are being treated here, she would tear this place down brick by brick to relieve her anger or to get you back. If she had to leave and is still alive, I'm willing to bet that she has at least bought 13 years' worth of presents to make it up to you. If anyone tells you different, I will take over and personally beat the living shit out of them. She loved you, Kit. Never doubt that for a second. Naruto could only nod. Kyubi rarely used his serious face, and when he did, he was very serious. After signing the contract, Naruto left the forest to go and get some Ichirakus. He had them help the family in a D-rank mission. Naruto noticed that the Ikarakas were slightly nervous about something, but shrugged it off as worry for their customers. Hey Kit, how about going and practicing the Kitsune summoning at the Forest of Death? Everyone's favorite fuzzball from hell suggested. Why there? Why not one of the other training ground? Kit, there were extermination parties hunting foxes after my attack. Any sign of a fox anywhere will set off a mob and more than likely they will blame you, Kyubi explained. I personally don't want to have you land in the hospital again. The forest's reputation is strong enough to protect you from the shinobi. Thanks for the idea. He thanked Tochi and Iam for the ramen, and took off for the forest. Leaping over the fence, Naruto went to the location that Kronos had waited for him and ran through the hand seals for the summoning. The seals were the same as the other contracts, but had a new seal at the end that Kyubi told him was the Kitsune hand seal. Kuchios no Jutsu, the blonde exclaimed as he slammed his palm into the ground. There was an explosion of smoke and Naruto was standing on top of Kyubi, who was half the size of Gamabunta as to not freak the population of Konoha out. Holy crap, you summoned me on the first try. The orange Kitsune cried. Dispel me and summon again. You'll get your Kitsune familiar with the next one. Another explosion of smoke and Naruto was on the forest floor. Repeating the same process, there was a poof of smoke and a small Sakura red fox the size of Akamaru appeared. Yo, my name is Kinto, the Kitsune said, obviously a male. You're the summoner that Kyubi told us about. Hi, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage. The knucklehead did a flashy pose. Huh, well thanks for summoning me. Kinto said. I just pulled a prank on the vixens and they are pissed. You got me out of trouble for now. There was another poof of smoke and a blue Kitsune with 8 tails appeared. Kinto-chan, did you really think you could get away? The vixen growled. Kyumi, our new summoner summoned me just as Mizuki-chan was about to land on me. I never thought I would be chosen as his familiar. The 8-tailed vixen blinked and looked behind the shivering Kinto to see Naruto looking on with interest. You're the one carrying Kyubi? Last I checked, yeah Fuzzbutt was in my belly button, Naruto answered. I still hate that nickname. It's that or Arrow Kitsune. You call the most powerful Kitsune in the world Fuzzbutt. Kyumi said with shock evident in her voice. You must have iron guts and steel balls, Kit. Yori did that, and is still in pain from the ass-kicking Kyubi gave him. Kinto stared at Kyumi. You told me he was peeping on the vixen's hot springs. Kyubi was peeping with him. They both got a beating after Kyubi finished with him. Kyumi replied. Moving on, Kinto, go back and tell the others to hold off for now. I want to speak with our new summoner. Okay. Naruto, it was a pleasure to meet you. The kid yelped before he dispelled. Kyumi gazed at the now vacant spot. Despite his pranks, I'm very proud of him. She turned her gaze to the Jinchuriki. I personally want to tell you some things, Naruto-kun. Kyubi-sama told us about your childhood. He had to hold us off from assaulting the village. Even among demons and kitsunes, children are precious. We wanted to take you to Foxhole Mountain, but Kyubi said that you didn't hate the village for the problems in your life and only wished to be acknowledged. Naruto interjected quietly. I still do. You have a good number of people that do. As to your dream of becoming Hokage, I won't lie to you, I don't see you taking it. Before you interrupt, she stopped the yell rising in Naruto's lungs. Being Hokage means that you will have to make very hard decisions and may have to send a loved one into a suicide mission. Not to mention all the paperwork. She placed the tail on his shoulder. It is an admirable goal, but don't shoot for it. Shoot to become strong enough to protect everyone precious to you. If you end up as Hokage, good for you. But be aware that eventually you will have to make a very hard choice. Shoot to become as strong as a Hokage and surpass them, but it is the best way to be seen and accepted. Naruto protested. Not true. Look at what you did in Wave. You inspired them to fight for their homeland. You helped them change their thoughts from ones of defeat and hopelessness to strength and victory. You aren't even from there and hardly knew them. You won't always be hated here in Konoha, but you are gaining strong allies. Wave is behind you and will help you. You turned Gaara around and managed to bring him into the light. You are an amazing person, Naruto. You have fought through hell, and if I didn't know better could go through again. You don't have to be acknowledged by the village. The residents of Foxhole Mountain acknowledge you. Wave acknowledges you. Gaara and his siblings acknowledge you. People who care about you acknowledge you, even with Kyuubi in you. Kyuubi said passionately. Naruto looked thoughtful. Did you rehearse that? Kinda. It sounded better in my head. The Blue Vixen said sheepishly. No, you gave me a lot of food for thought. Naruto did something that made anyone who knew him swear that hell was freezing over. He bowed to Kyuubi. Thank you? If Kitsans could blush, Kyuubi was doing it. No problem. Looking up, she saw the sun beginning to finish his descent. I would go to your sensei's surprise now. Be strong, Naruto, and should anyone turn their backs on you or any of your precious people, the Kitsans will protect them. Just summon me or Kinto-chan. Council chambers. Danza looked over the present council members. So we are agreed. Sakari and the others gave a chorus of hi. Danza smiled internally. Finally, he is out of the village, and will soon be under my control. Hyuga council chambers. Finally, we will be rid of the weak link that is Hayashi Hyuga's family. One Hyuga elder cried. Izumi was listening behind a door. No, Naruto treaded the familiar path to the top of the Hokage monument. Kyuubi had certainly given him a lot to think about. The vixen was right in more ways than one, but that just confused him even more. The blonde shook his head. He seemed to have a surprise in mind, but as to what it was, he had no idea. Arriving at the plateau atop the heads, he saw a small pavilion with music coming out. Knowing that it wasn't usually there, he peeked his head in to see a crowd of people he knew. They were most of the Konoha rookies, Tochi and Iam, Kronos, B, Hinata, Hayashi, a girl he assumed was Hinata's sister Hanabi, and several clan heads along with Tsunade and Shizen with Tuntun. B saw him and called him out. Oi, the guest of honor was here. And a 1 and a 2 and a 3, happy birthday, Naruto. Everyone cried. Naruto just stood there, shock was evident on his face. Then everyone was shocked to see him fall to his knees and begin to cry. Hinata and B, both knowing why he was crying, walked over to him. B knelt beside him as Hinata did the same in front of him. They heard him say softly, "Thank you, Okami, thank you." B just smiled. No problem. Now enjoy, it's your party. You deserve it. Elsewhere, the usual mob for the fox hunt was beginning to hunt down Naruto. They found out that he was headed up to atop the Hokage monument. Sakari was leading the charge and cried, "Let's get it!" Back with the party, Naruto was on the verge of tears again. Person after person gave him gifts until Hinata approached him. Pulling him over to the top of Yandame's head, she pulled out her gift. "I wanted to get you something special, to show how much I appreciate you sharing your secret and keeping mine." She handed him the box. "When you open it, I'll explain why I chose it." Naruto took off the wrapping to find a box similar to ones he saw a man give a woman once when he was running from a mob. Opening it, he found a necklace. The chain was made of very fine links made of sterling silver. The pendant part was in the shape of a nine-tailed fox with broken chains on his legs. The very small eyes were made up of 2 of the finest sapphires that he had ever seen. The fox itself was made of a mixture of silver and gold, with the position of the fox showing that he was looking up. Naruto looked at her with his jaw hanging open. "I can't." "Yes, you can. I chose it because it reminds me of you. The fox should be obvious, but the chains represent everything that has tried to keep you down, and how you just keep your head upwards, never looking down and never giving up." Hinata was heady from the amount of blood rushing to her head. "Despite what you have been through, you are no doubt the strongest person mentally here in Konoha." Naruto pulled the necklace out of the box and proceeded to place it around his neck. "I don't know what to say." Hinata began to respond, but the mob came up over the edge of the stairs. Naruto's eyes widened as he began to shake. There he is! Get him! Sakari screamed, causing the mob to charge. The people in the party began to move when B cried out. Protector of the dimensions and worlds that live beside us, heed my call. I summon you, wielder of the power of Palkia, terra firma. There was an explosion of smoke between the mob and the two Jinchuriki. As it cleared, a dragon the size of a two-story house stood on two legs between them. The scales were a purplish-white with greenish tints. The mob froze as Terra roared at them. The dragon's care was focused on the mob exclusively as the pink orbs on his shoulders glowed with power. His tail was shaped like a crescent moon as it wrapped around Naruto and Hinata protectively. Tsunade looked at the transformed Terra in shock. That is, Terra is the heir of space, meaning that he can use some of the power the dragon god of space has. B explained. That is Terra's final form, the form of Palkia, the dragon god of space. A random shinobi in the crowd yelled, It's just a genjutsu. Kai! He cried as he slammed his hands together and sent out a pulse of chakra. He began to quake as Terra leaned forward and roared directly at him. The shinobi passed out from fear while foaming at the mouth. Stand down, Terra. The dragon reared back his head as B stepped forward. Year after year, I had to watch as you beat a child for something he had absolutely no control over. Now this will end. Indeed. Danzu appeared over the steps along with a Hyuga elder named Hideki, who was smirking. By order of the Council of Konoha, Naruto Uzumaki, you are banished from Konoha, effective immediately. By order of the new head of the Hyuga clan, Hinata, Hayashi, Hanabi and Niji Hyuga are banished from the clan. Hinata, Hanabi, and Hayashi will be branded and Hinata and Hanabi will be married to Sasuke Uchiha. Hideki sneered. Inbu began to advance on the banished members when the roar of an engine filled the air. Looking up, what people could only describe as a massive misshapen bird appeared over the tree line behind the heads. A/N. Because I hate describing airships, simply put it is similar to the airship from Final Fantasy VII, Advent Children, but with jet engines that can be rotated. No propellers. The lower hatch opened to reveal Isamu and Yuna standing there. B grabbed the two stunned Jinchuriki as Kronos ushered the other banished Hyugas to the airship. Leaping aboard, B dropped them and flipping through hand seals before crying. Doton, Velociraptor charge. The earth shifted before Velociraptors came up out of the ground and pinning the regular ANBU to the ground. Danza cried, Root to me. Dozens of Root agents converged on the airship as Yuna flashed through seals. Futon, barrier of Fujin. A wall of wind condensed and appeared over the hatch. A reckless agent rushed the barrier only to be sliced into ribbons. Naruto barely heard B yell at another person to take off. Konoha was no longer his home, so where would be his new home? He could only wonder as Hinata enveloped him in a hug as he lost sight of the place he wanted to be recognized in. What if Naruto becomes Yuza Daimyo Naruhina harem? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel, and leave a like if you guys need the next part. Comment down and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.